Hello.
Hello. Hopefully everyone can hear us.
I'm waiting for the delay to see if I hear me. Yeah, we hear me. Okay,
Okay,
we're good. Oh
great.
boy.
So this week we thought we would do something a little different. Instead of running one of the quick formats, we thought, given that we just had all of these live re-rates, it might make a lot of sense to have a week where we talk about some of the new live cards. So the data that we've got, we kind of have. It does sound like kidneys, yes. So the data that we've got is going to come just from the 128 team live tournament yesterday. So it's a real limited data set. But this is mainly an idea to just kind of give us a chance to talk about some of these live cards that are going to be used in live tournaments and caps, things like that, and sort of some of the re-rates. So we've also got our special guest. You want to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Your Kidneys. I know a lot of the names in chat, so you know who I am probably. I stream Perfect Team when I feel like it, and I'm the spreadsheet man, I guess. Yeah.
And I'm DB of the Chicago Corgis and the Atlantic City Angry Biddies representing over here. I'm the slightly less special guest since I was here last week, and I'm helping with the spreadsheet and stuff. But I'm the somewhat special guest.
It's all right. Everyone's a special guest, right?
Mike's on a boat this week, so we don't have Mike with us, but
Oh, I
we're
was
thinking of
wondering where
him.
Mike was. He's been kind of quiet, and I talk with Mike so much. Um,
He's
Also, I
he's only
guess
been
DB
communicating with us via smoke signals, I think, from his boat. So
on a
It,
boat. That's sketchy.
he's
yeah.
on a boat. He's on a boat, and literally the last thing he said to us is that he can see whales.
Cool. I love
Yeah, so I
whales.
wasn't sure if he was talking about Perfect Team or not, but
There's a wild Fabtron spotted on the horizon. No.
So so this will I think be a little bit more of a free form thing. So I can't see whales, but you can hear it. I don't know. I mean, actually, are we all free to play this year, or what
I
are you
am
doing this
free
year?
to. I'm free to play minus the gift cards my dad sneaks me when my mom's not looking. Um, so I have not spent $1 of my own money on the game.
I
Um,
am still free to play this year. I haven't given up in the last week, so
nice, nice. It's fun. I actually am enjoying it a lot more, and I've been super active in tournaments, and I have money. It feels weird. I never have money.
Yeah, I think that's one of the nice things is that you can really compete as a free to play player. Uh, Obviously,
Hmm.
more resources always helps.
yeah,
So
but
Yeah,
just
no,
how much
absolutely.
time you want to spend on it.
Yeah, it's definitely time, money, and or both, right? And the best people are probably going to be the ones with both, unless you put in enough time that money doesn't matter, which people have done, right? I mean, we've had free to play winners of Perfect and PTCS even. I'm pretty sure was free to play last year, which is pretty cool. So
Yeah,
actually, several of them. So yeah.
great. So we're going to kind of talk through the live cards. This is something kind of everyone's going to be familiar with the player pool because, well, they're your MLB players.
Hmm.
So let's see. I guess maybe we can talk a little bit about sort of overall what the data looked like from the live tournament. I don't know how representative that's going to be. Um, it's really a mostly right-handed setup, right? Over three-quarters right-handed. The batters may be a little bit more mixed, about a third of them lefty. Like we were talking about, kind of with bronze, not a lot of switch hitters, right?
Hmm.
And generally a little bit of a higher run scoring environment, although not as bad as gold. So
yeah, not with the split, not too far off from real life MLB too. I don't think.
yeah, I think it's a
So
little bit more right-handed, I guess.
we're imitating life closely enough.
Another thing I was a little surprised by. So in general, we're going to see that really all the modern players tend to be lower stamina. And it still turns out that the teams that are doing the best are running only 12 arms. So you can still get away with that, even with low stamina, even in modern settings.
I think that's fair. It was actually you last year, Charles, who told me that like, oh, I can run 11 guys with pitch counts and get away with it in league if I just manage them properly. And ever since then, I've messed around with my fatigue settings a bunch of times, and I can do 12 guys with low stam in bronze, AFK it, and not have one batter throw ever. So,
Yeah, I think it's definitely doable. Um,
mhm.
the main thing is really the usual problem of trying to get the computer manager to actually do something smart with bullpen usage.
Yes, that is the hard part. Yeah.
Um, so, all right. So,
And
should we talk about some catchers? So, I
sure.
guess we can maybe sort of throw some of the model stuff and data stuff up together because really, I mean, here's for example what the model is going to give you at catcher. Um, really the point here is kind of we're talking about live cards. For the most part, they're rated somewhat similarly, and so you can almost just sort them by overall, right, in terms of where they're going to end up. So maybe yeah, why don't I throw maybe both the model and the data up here?
And right now we have no live catchers above gold, so these are
Yeah,
pretty much as good as it gets.
it's been a brutal year for catchers overall ratings in perfect team. Like it's so hard to be rated highly. Like you have to have like defense and a decent bat, and just nobody in the real world has that right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Which on the flip side, we see with some of those iron old catchers like Bubbles Hargrave and Carlos Ruiz and some of those guys who are, low 40 rated, or Bill Salkeld, obviously, is
Yeah.
the most notable one where it's like they're play way above their ratings because their overall is terrible. So
I actually think Carlos Ruiz is the most absurd case of that because he does have catcher ability and his
Yeah.
bat
yeah,
VL is still amazing. I think that card is probably the most like weirdly rated card, other than I think Schreiber, who we'll see later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think
yeah, I think
that's.
it.
So go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I think Ruiz is so low because his BABIP is so low. It's kind of funny that
Hmm.
I think the BABIP is weighted so much higher in overall this year, partly because of the Church of BABIP that Kidneys here has helped establish among the OTP community that
Yeah. So
now we've ruined it for ourselves.
to answer, by the way, so the model here is just based off kind of a modern era and running something where only live cards are available. So it's not specifically based on tournament data or anything like that. Um, and actually, yeah, I think one of the reasons also maybe that there are no highly rated catchers is just that the catchers that are doing well this season are not the ones that were highly rated coming in. Right?
Sure.
Like if you just ranked players based on their performance in 2022, you might see Kirk at high diamond at least, right?
Yeah, absolutely. What a year he's had so far.
So it's more that kind of the catchers we thought would be good haven't been, and then the catchers that weren't expected to be good have done really well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. And I guess I don't know, Kidneys. You want to take this question about kind of how to use a DH?
So let's see. Before the question. Yeah,
I
I a
mean,
lot of the time people so often ask me like what's the best DH in a format unless there's really a clear-cut guy that like has no defense and he can't play first base, right? So there's very rarely I think that's actually the case and most of the time I just use it as a flex spot where I can, bounce a few guys around between it who are not like my best hitters versus that, but they're not starting anywhere in the field. And I do that a lot of the time. Or sometimes you can maybe squeeze a slightly better defender into the field and then put one of your players you were going to run anyway at DH. But most of the time, I don't like go out of my way to specialize designated hitter.
Yeah, that's the way I'd like to do it. I've actually found this season that somehow it just feels like in almost every tournament I look at, like three of the top four bats play the same position or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like
mhm.
Yes.
every bronze bat's a third baseman or something, or I just really want to
Yep.
roster four catchers in iron or that kind of thing.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think especially looking at like tournaments that are like, you know, like bronze or silver or iron, you just get kind of expose a flaw in the overall rating at different levels, right? And find out that one position is just not rated as well as they should be at that level, you know, and that's kind of how it's been working this year.
Yeah.
yeah, and speaking into the overall ratings, I think the fielding is more highly weighted this year, and so
Mhm.
you end up with some guys who are just better bats with no, defense that you wouldn't want to put out there under any circumstances, really.
Yes, for sure.
Let's see. So one thing I see that's interesting here is that actually the top catcher, both in the model and the stats, is not a particularly good defensive catcher. And I think that's a surprise to all of us that kind of have been looking at all the catcher ability for the last couple seasons.
I would say if you were looking at it, if you told me that last year, I would laugh, right? Um, I am now very recently, I have become a believer in the framing run statistic. Um, there was an experiment I did on one of my teams where I ran Spencer Torkelson at catcher. Spencer Torkelson is eligible for catcher. He has like one or two ability, okay? So he's basically as close to, you know, the baseline, the intercept, whatever, as you're going to get, right?
Yep.
And I
That's
ran him
around
there
there.
for 2 seasons, you know? Um, and what he did is he put up negative 70 framing runs. Now, until then, I didn't think that rating actually worked, right? But I was like experimenting and playing around with it in the base game and stuff, and it seems like that's actually a really good measuring of how catchers are working. So since I discovered that, a lot of these guys, you can get away with a guy with like 60, 70 ability in a lot of these tournaments right now. I don't know if that'll be the case later on in the game, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, I like treating the framing runs. You kind of weight it similar to zone rating and batting
Mm-hmm.
runs, the base running runs. You just kind of add all that together and see. You can make a kind of informed decision with that statistic now about like, okay, this guy's going to cost me this much in defense. How much does he have to be worth it on offense?
Yep, absolutely. No, it's really nice because for maybe the first time we have the pieces we need to kind of evaluate catching, right? And that's never been the
Yeah.
case in Out of the Park before. So shout out to whoever was able to build that into the game. That's great.
So yeah, that makes sense. So okay. So I guess we're doing things a little different in terms of the other stuff we wanted to highlight here, because for the most part, the live quicks don't run that much. There's one live open a week. Maybe some of these guys will also play in OOTP era. So what we're trying to do the rest of the time is maybe to highlight also some cards that are going to be useful for caps, or maybe that are just a little bit undervalued, something like that. So let's see. So kind of when we're looking at, the platoon guys here, for example, we're really looking at some cards that maybe as a platoon player kind of play a little bit better than you might have expected from the overall. So here's kind of what the model came up with. And I think in particular, this Omar Narvaez card is kind of an interesting lefty bat for a catcher, right? There aren't a ton of lefty catchers toward the top here.
Yeah, it's hard to get a left-handed hitting catcher in almost anything, right? Um, let alone in real life. He's got pretty good ability for a live catcher at 76, but um, bat is very in between everywhere. But honestly, it's not terrible for a silver card. Definitely
No, I
like the
think
eye on
it's
the bottom of it.
oh yes, I think VL and VR is flipped. Sorry about that. That we can totally fix that though.
See,
You play the lefties VL, right? That's what you do.
double up, two wrongs
Well,
make a
it's
right.
this it's our opener line. It's our opener lineup.
It's our anti-opener lineup. There we go.
We're playing 5D chess over here. Get with the program.
There's
Let's
that
see.
discussion you guys had where you were like explaining how the meta evolves. Yeah, we're already predicting the next evolution right here, guys. This is
There
what you
you
get
go.
on this stream.
let's see. We did try to detect a winner, basically who was on the most of, the four semifinalists in live. Don't know how useful that's going to be, but Vasquez comes out as our biggest winner here. But I think maybe the more interesting thing are some of the catchers that are a little bit undervalued. So here I can put up kind of a few of these. So
Let's look at that.
here you go. So here's some that we identified. So so kind of looking at what Warbot's saying. First off, this Tucker Barnhart card I think is one of the few live bats that actually maybe can play in bronze. There have been some arms that you can play, but this is one of the few bats that I think is just about playable. Right? Has that catcher defense, kind of has everything but power. Right?
Yeah, he was a little bit better last update. I think he was a 69 or something, and he had a little bit of a better bat, but still decent because he's one of the highest ability guys, and he's just a true lefty, right, as well. So it's just always nice to be able to get somebody out there because in at least historical bronze, you'll always play Kendall, right?
Yeah.
Jason Kendall, rather. And so it's nice to have a platoon partner for him, for sure.
And then, Austin Barnes kind of seems to be a reasonably efficient sort of mid-level, iron cap option. And Dom Nunez is a card that I think I've almost not seen at all in caps. But I think, in fact, because you picked kind of three interesting options that are right at the minimum. And I think the point is that if you compare Nunez to those guys, for 2 extra points, you're actually getting quite a lot of bat, and particularly sort of an eye that plays pretty well in cap.
Yeah, it's pretty much all that eye.
I would definitely spend the 2 points on Nunez over, I think, a lot of these guys, which is really interesting because for some reason I didn't pick them up when I was going through cards earlier. I think in general, like, unless I'm spending literally on Barnes or Barnhart, I probably wouldn't spend points on like a live cap catcher. I think a lot of these low guys that are just like 60, 70 ability or whatever are just all good, right? So you just go as cheap as you can get with ability. Pretty much nobody hits, right? So, but if you can get one hitting rating, you really do want eye just above everything else. So I think that Dom Nunez card is very, very good.
I think so. I mean, it's funny because, and this is one of the things the model's fine with, the avoid K is really, really bad. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He basically gets that eye because you staple the bat to his shoulder and hope the pitcher misses 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. I will say some interesting things to note on my catchers that like you're not going to see here is Sandy Leon actually sack bunts really well, which I think for a 40 overall catcher is like super nice to have. I'm about that. And Perez actually has a little bit of power. He's got like 60 VR, 55 VL. So he'll hit a home run every now and then. Not the worst option for a 40 overall. I mean, he'll probably be your backup catcher if you pick him. So,
yeah, I remember that was really nice with Hedges last year, right? That you'd use Hedges kind of in a lot of these situations, but occasionally he would just kind of run into one.
Yep.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
So I don't know. Any other thoughts on some of the catchers here? I noticed that we're not picking kind of the really big catcher ability ones, except maybe someone like Barnhart. But maybe that's just kind of what it looks like this season.
Yeah, Hedges' catcher ability just isn't as... It's not as much of a difference between him and the next best options as there was last year, where he became more viable as a no-hitting, defense-only kind of guy, That's kind of my thought.
Yeah, when you do like a regression or something or a line of best fit, right, for some but like catcher ability, it doesn't start to fall off really to the really low numbers, right? Like it's pretty linear till then. And so like a lot of these guys like that are only like 10 or even 20 points lower than Hedges are really not going to hurt you that much until you start getting like into like the 50s and the 40s and then you get burned. But
yeah, this year maybe even more than prior, I think there's more of an argument to be made for like tiers of like acceptability rather than everything kind of being a continuous spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one thing I should also note here This is, I think, about the fourth or so of these that we've done, and so we've talked about catchers each week, and we've never talked about catcher arm.
Ah, okay.
And it is worth pointing out that there's a lot more caught stealing this year than there has been in the past, right?
Yeah,
Have
it's
you
just when I
tried to look
look
at
at it.
arm?
When I look, I've looked at it, and when I have done my stuff so far, it seems like such a minimal difference. At least getting thrown out right when you're facing a better arm. Um, and I could probably do attempts as well because it does dissuade people from running a little bit as well, right? Um, but honestly, with how often people are getting thrown out this year, I think right now I don't care if they're running on me. I almost want them to, you know. So I have it not really mattering, but again, I could totally be doing something wrong.
Yeah, I think I've also kind of been ignoring it. I at least haven't seen anything yet that convinces me I should stop ignoring it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Until further notice.
right. Yeah, I think if you're looking to throw people out, hold runners is much, 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 much more important right now.
Although there are some of these, even with the hold runners, that have been driving me crazy with the ratings so far. I think my favorite is if you've seen like the Diamond Isringhausen.
Uh huh.
He has one.
His hold runner is 1.
He's on
Yeah,
John Lester level.
it it burns you. It really does. If you look at like, because I do a lot of league data, so I deal with probably the most amount of data. And like you can just like chart like almost a straight line between the guys who have hold runners and don't, and like stolen base attempts against, and how often they get thrown out when they do run. Right. Um, it's like so well correlated. And when you're at the bottom of the barrel, it's like you're going from like I don't know, like a 12% against rate. No, you're going from like a maybe like a 4 or 5 to like like a 10 or 12 against rate. Like it's really
Yeah.
bad, really, really bad to have that one number.
The crazy thing is, if you look at that season for Isringhausen, that one hold rating apparently comes from runners being a grand total of 1-for-1 stealing against him that year.
Well, it's
Oh my!
100%, man. You can't argue with
It's
that.
he never held a runner, as you can say.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think Mr. Black saying the runner compares to the pitcher's hold. I think there's several factors that go into it for sure, like the speed, the stealing, the hold runner, the catcher's arm. Like I think the engine is taking in a lot of those ratings, but yeah, hold runner definitely has a big effect. So it might even be worth looking. If you notice you have a pitching staff with bad hold, like maybe you should pay more attention to arm because they are going to get more stolen base attempts.
So, Mr. Black, it would be the speed rating of the batter, not the stealing rating in the first example, because speed is your aggressiveness for stealing, right? As well as a few other things. But so stealing is actually your success rate. Speed is how often you're going to go.
that's also why you want to be really careful with some of these guys that have really high speed but bad stealing.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, no. Run speed has absolutely nothing to do with a player's actual speed rating. That's why all the time people ask questions like, "Why does Shohei have no speed? Why is Julio Rodriguez not the fastest player in the game?" It doesn't actually mean run speed. It has nothing to do with that, right? Which is really weird. I wish they would rename it, like aggressiveness or something.
So
But
basically, speed is how fast they think they are, and stealing is how fast they really are.
that is very true. I think that's a good way to put it.
Speed does play into base running too, for like getting extra base hits and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, I mean, the most useful thing is the aggressiveness. Really, is the better word for it. You're correct.
Yeah.
All right.
I think bunts are independent. Bunt for hit's also a nice slider. If a guy's bunt for hit, turn it up. It's just a BABIP boost. It's great.
All right. Should we move on to first baseman?
Yeah, let's get it rolling.
All right. So first base, where we've got at least a few better options than catcher. So let's see. the model basically says, hey, the three perfects are, good.
What?
The data, on the other hand, surprisingly enough, says, yeah, the three perfects are pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, so not too surprising there. Um,
No.
this is kind of where your best bats are.
I'm actually surprised at how much higher Goldschmidt's Woba is, considering he's a righty in a pretty righty heavy format.
Yeah, I wonder if he's being platooned a little bit, just because there's
Hmm.
kind of an easy platoon here.
That's very true. But he does have a
Yeah, I
lot of
think it's
PAs. Yeah. But
The
pretty
other
tailor-made
thing,
situation here.
sure.
yeah, the other interesting thing here is, I mean, first base defense isn't necessarily critical, but we've actually got a couple really good defenders in there, and Jordan.
Yeah. Yeah, and Jordan. Yeah, I mean, Freddie Freeman and Paul Goldschmidt are both like two of the best first basemen defensively in real baseball. So I don't think it's gonna matter that much, but it is cool to see it show up. I mean, you'll take it if you can get it, right?
Well, I think there is actually a good question here, because we'll probably come back to this in a little bit. Jordan also plays some left in OTP, right? So does this mean you actually should be thinking about him more as a left fielder?
Let me find his left field ratings real fast,
Yeah, his position rating is 51.
which does not inspire confidence.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, he's about as mobile of a left fielder as he is a first baseman.
Yeah, I mean, most of his first base rating just comes from the fact he's super tall.
Yep.
He is a 49, 47, 44 in left field. It's actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. There's
Yeah, I mean,
probably consideration to play all three of these guys then.
maybe, yeah. Also, a couple guys that sort of become better when when you kind of look at them just sort of on one side. Someone like Votto or Pete Alonso. Again, they're still not going to be at the level of these top three, but maybe some guys that do get promoted a bit if you can platoon them. That Alonso bat's potentially interesting, particularly because there isn't a lot of movement in the live card set, right? So that power really does play.
Yep. Votto's also a card that's just going to get better with time, which isn't super helpful for with caps, but he's turned around. He had a really bad start to the year, and he's turned it around really hard. So I expect that card to go up.
Makes sense, yeah.
I'm a big Joey Votto fan, so
He's a
I'd
fun
be
guy.
very happy seeing him do again. He's such a fun guy.
Winnerist, but well, actually, both Goldschmidt and Jordan were on all four of the semifinal teams, so that's maybe not too surprising. So what about some underrated guys? Because I think first base is one of these places that it's really easy to just find some cheap options potentially because the bats are so good, right? And you can kind of just stick anybody at first almost, right?
Yep.
So I think we got a few different kinds of options here. So Matashevich is actually the guy that just seems to be the most efficient to me. He only cost you 1 point over the minimum in cap, and this is actually a really good bat, right? I mean, this bat isn't too much worse than say Votto even, is it?
No, it's really not. He's actually pretty great. As the year has gone on, Charles, I have subscribed more and more to the theory that a Void K is overrated. So I'm coming around, and I think this card is an excellent 41. Also, he backs up left field, which is great.
Yeah, he can play left. I think he even plays right, technically, not very well. The Void K is, going to be an issue against somebody that can strike him out, right?
Which is pretty much anybody.
Yes.
Just pretty much anybody.
I think I might be able to strip him
I
out.
think against like Addy Joss, he would do just fine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Or what's the guy that always is it Quisenberry that always has like 19
Yes.
stuff?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
Quisenberry has is he 20 stuff or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but basically, for 1 point over the minimum, this is just a great option, and I think I used to say he just is a must play in every cap format. Right now we have this Cavaretta card,
Hmm.
who kind of is a pretty good competitor.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah, I've been coming back around to Matajevic after using Cavaretta, though. Matajevic's just a good card.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
honestly, don't get scared by the avoid K, right? Like, obviously, a 40 has to have some big weaknesses, and the worst he does is like an out that doesn't actually cost you, right? Um, it would be nice maybe if he had a little bit more eye, but like the card profile is actually pretty sick. Like, he'll hit home runs too and everything.
And he's pretty not splitty. He has 60 power versus left, even.
Yes.
And his avoid K only gets 1 point worse. It's an 18 versus a 19. So it's not
That's
a horrible,
5%
overall
worse. How
bad
dare
card.
you?
that is 5% worse. Um, yeah, but I think the thing is that, as you point out, every card's going to have a weakness. I think this partly just comes down to kind of how the game engine works, right? That on the one hand, if it's a strikeout, you're not going to get your BABIP roll,
Hmm.
but you're also
Yes.
not going to ground into a double play. I mean, there are other things you're not going to do, right? And the balls that do get put in play, you sort of have a better chance to actually get a hit off of. So I just don't think avoid K by itself is a weakness the way cards are constructed right now.
Yeah, and for
Yep.
what it's worth, it's also important to note, as far as I understand, that the home run roll and the strikeout roll are basically simultaneous. So he's actually still going to hit quite a few home runs, even with the very low void K. It's not the same as the BABIP, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other
Yeah,
reason
just
that kind of the
yeah.
really high I is great.
Yes.
Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, and
But
then also as you
keep
can see, Votto just looks like a pretty efficient option. I still don't like
Yeah.
playing him in caps just because there are so many kind of silver cards around there. I mean, for Votto, for 1 more point, you can get Edgar Martinez or something, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
But he is pretty efficient. And then you picked out a different set of guys, right? You want to mention?
Yeah. Um, Josh Bell just showed up like super high on my stuff, and obviously I didn't have a live model ready, so I was using some other stuff. But he's actually like a really fun card that like has splits both ways of the ball, and he's a switch hitter. And he's just super well rounded, like almost 60s in everything, or 50s, 60s, 50s, and everything. So I don't think I would pay that many points for him, but he's going to be a pretty sweet bat if you don't want to go for one of the hundreds.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, if you're not going to platoon first, then a switch hitter is a pretty good
Yes,
option,
absolutely.
right? And I'm trying to think. I don't think I've seen this Smith card much, actually.
So actually, the reason I just picked Paven, and he's probably too many points to do this, but he backs up left and right field, and he's like got 60 I with like 50 everything else. So he's just really highly statted for a 53.
Yeah,
He's probably he's one of those cards that like if you have a bunch of cap space, maybe you throw him in over a bullpen arm. I don't know. Um, I think he might still be. He probably still isn't going to go down, and he's at 53. So maybe when he goes down a bit more, he'd be more viable. But
yeah. I'm actually a really big fan of actually having backup, like bench players in cap tournaments.
okay, yeah.
I think especially even more so maybe for middle infielders. But if you can find a guy that's going to back up 3 positions, he's actually probably playing 5 games out of 7.
Yeah, sure.
And so that means he's getting as many games as your starting shortstop.
It's pretty significant if you think about it that way, right?
Yeah. Um,
Mm.
you still need some arms out of the pen, and it's a cap, so there are always trade-offs. But I think if you actually do have, so like the kind of guy that's perfect for this is someone like Don Money. He just sort of backs up everything, but actually he's perfectly good starting 5 or 6 games a series.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's like the Rays used to use Zobrist, right?
So good. I love that example. Yep.
Um, so all right, so let's see. Second base. Why don't we? So let's see. Again, second base. You don't do so poorly just kind of ranking him by overall, right? Um, I do love that we've actually got a high average, low power guy right at the top.
Yeah, we do. It's very
Yeah.
unusual, but
For
This
Arias
is
is so high
Arias'
status.
year.
it is, yeah.
That card, if that card was in Perfect Team 21, it would be one of the best cards in the game right now. Like best hitters. It's
Absolutely.
crazy to think about that,
So
right? But it
funny.
would be. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, it's just funny because it's sort of exactly the kind of card. If I showed you that shape and I asked you what year is that card from, you're gonna pick like 1892 or something, right?
Hmm. Yep.
Uh, but yeah,
Baseball of
somehow,
yesteryear is alive with Luis Arias.
yeah, Arias, yes, he plays third and left too. Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, and Edmund
Yeah,
plays
he's flexible.
Edmund also plays everywhere. So Edmund's also, and I'm not sure I didn't like him. I thought I liked him more before the re-rate, but maybe actually dropping to gold almost makes him playable. Constructing rosters somewhere. I think I'd still rather like a Harvey Keene or something, but let's see. The observed data again is gonna look similarly, pretty similar. So the reason this isn't quite in order is just again this multiple positions and trying to figure out kind of who's playing where.
Hmm.
Um, I like that McNeil shows up here. That's another card that I really wanted to be better this year, and just somehow the
Yeah,
shape doesn't quite fit.
yeah, he's a very similar hitter to Arias, and he again he plays a bunch of positions, so he's fun.
Yeah,
Second,
I'm a
probably
little
not third,
surprised.
but left and right. Yeah.
I'm a little surprised the bat isn't even a little better, but I guess the point is that 11 points of I for a rise is actually quite a bit.
Yeah, well, also McNeil's pretty splitty, which doesn't help. So he's only 78 BABIP VL, right? That's
Yeah.
a bit of a punishment to him. So
Let's see. A couple guys again that are maybe a little further down the list, but actually look pretty good if you're going to platoon them. Gavin Lux, DJ LeMahieu, both pretty good, sort of one-sided bats, right?
DJ was super fun last year, where you just trained him at every position, and then he was your utility guy, even if you were a whale for like the first month and a half of the year. It was fantastic.
Absolutely, yes.
He was so cool that way. He actually plays decent second base defense compared to a lot of the guys on this list. And he's got a really good, pretty split neutral bat other than the eye at the bottom. So he looks pretty fun.
And funny
Yeah.
enough, I think a lot of people have been using Tatis that way this year, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
think playing him at second. Um,
The only thing
I
is
wish
this
I had
takes so
trained
long to
mine.
train right now.
yeah,
Yes, it literally takes like 3.5, 4 weeks to train a card. So if I had trained my Tatis in the beginning of the year, I've been so happy. I didn't, so I'm playing him at shortstop. VL, still really good. Excellent card. I'm gonna be very sad when he starts playing again and that card gets adjusted down.
Let's see. Right. So actually, the most common second baseman on the winning teams it was Guillorme. So I guess
I
just going kind of pure defense.
I have a soft spot for Guillorme because in Out of the Park 20 and 21, if you played the base game, you always picked him up. The Mets would trade him for nothing, and he would be your starting second
Absolutely.
baseman for like 10 years. He's a fantastic
Yes.
player. But no, yeah, he's the defensive option. Obviously, 75 range. He's still got good eye, good BABIP, decent Ks, right? So not a bad player really. Plays shortstop as well, fully trained at shortstop for a backup.
Yeah.
Just a nice card.
Yeah, I think that's why we're seeing him on the rosters is because he can back up second and short with one spot. So
Yep, you could even punt third for a game with him if you need to. So
That makes sense. Yeah.
yep.
Gabagool Luigi makes a great point that the Mets would never make a bad trade in real life.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.
So unrealistic.
I mean, the main problem is that kind of most of these cards, kind of at the gold level, they're good cards, but just there's so many other options kind of in all of the formats where gold cards play that you kind of can't really get these guys in cap.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
So a few options that maybe you can more think about. Owen Miller is a guy I liked him when he cost 52, and I think I still like him at 47, even though the bat's gone down a little bit. Right? He also just sort of plays everywhere. He doesn't play everywhere all that well, right? But he just kind of plays everywhere. He's one of these guys where you'll have a playable bat that backs up, 4 positions or something, right?
So he looks awesome as a backup. I don't think I would start him just because he's not fully trained at second. But as a backup, this card is fantastic. 47. It's got BABIP, decent Ks, and plays everywhere in the infield, like you said. It's great.
Yeah, he's only fully trained, I think, at third or something.
short.
And that is it short, and that's the one place
Yes.
that he actually isn't very good.
Yes. He's got 66 range. He can hold his own in short.
Nice thing about kind of quietly him in left, center, and right.
Does he have ratings there? No.
He's just listed as qualified to learn or something.
Field, yeah. So.
But it's left, center, right, so he's kind of a good
everywhere.
Yeah, so he's just sort of a really good like last ditch option, maybe in a draft or something as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that would be an awesome card to have in a draft if he plays everywhere. That's fantastic.
Yanni, Yanni actually comes out pretty well for his overall kind of in Warbot stuff, but I'm actually not completely convinced he's that much better than Miller. The defense is a lot better, I guess.
Defense is a lot better, but also just having 70 both ways as a switch hitter is fantastic. Also, you can do some base running too.
That's right. He runs
and bunting. Like this is a very good utility card as well.
Yeah, I haven't played any Iron since the live update, but I'm assuming that card might get some play there.
Yeah, I think he might be playable in Iron. I don't think I like him in Cap as much.
Yeah, I think I feel about the same. This card looks very good. Well, Iron, a lot of people play Jody Reed at second, even though I think he's like 2 points not trained or something, and that card's fantastic, but you could definitely consider this card.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And a bunch of the Platinum released second basemen probably are going to be up there. We might do Iron next week, and then we'll kind of go through that. And then you've got a few sort of slightly higher point options, right?
I do. I have, I forget how to say his name, Kato, who's just one of these low avoid K guys with everything else. I mean, he'll run, he bunts, he's got 72 range, he plays second, third, first, left field, and he's got BABIP. I like BABIP still, even if it's not the best. It has a place in my heart.
Well, it goes together,
so he showed up pretty well.
The guys that can't avoid K tend to have high BABIP because when they do get the ball in play, they got to get their hits somehow, right?
Yep, absolutely. So I think he was cute. By the way, my picks, chat, are not in any specific order. I think we should have prefaced that too. I was just kind of grabbing what I saw that I liked. David Fletcher is kind of like a Guillaume light, a little bit. Saves you a few points. Also can play left field, and he's a little bit better at third, I think. He's super high avoid K heavy on the bat. So I don't know if that's gonna... What it'll do is it'll let him play up against like the really strong bullpens that you can see in live formats. And that'll be nice, but absolutely no power on the card is really the downside of it. But David Fletcher's really cool. And then Castro, I'm trying to find switch hitters if I can find them, just because I like them. He just plays literally almost everywhere with decent defense. Not really trained in left or right, but I think his outfield ratings are still pretty good. He's fully trained at short and second. Probably a little too expensive for that, considering he has no eye and no power. But he showed up decently in my stuff.
Yeah, I think the other point, there's a good point DB made last week too, which is if you're kind of scrounging and just looking for something playable, going with a good defender kind of always works, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that should be kind of your default option for caps. Going with defense, and then I think if you're looking at batting ratings, we've talked about eye being kind of always useful. You can just try and stall them out if nothing else.
Yeah, and I do like this Gosuke card as well. So
Yeah, that card is really good. Yeah. A lot of points, but it's good.
yeah, but actually, I think that's playable in the Bronze Live, for example.
Oh, absolutely. What is it? Chat says Gosuke Kato? Yeah.
Gosuke Kato.
Okay. Yeah, he looks fantastic. He's also a lefty second baseman, which is great.
Yeah,
It's really fun.
Yeah, again, I haven't done Bronze Live since the update, but in the previously, I don't think his ratings changed that much, and he was fantastic before. So
I think he went up
always better
just a
now.
couple points, maybe something like that.
Yeah, I think he was also a 68 in the last update. So,
Was
but
he?
yeah,
Okay.
good option.
Let's see. All right. Let's see. Continuing to move around. So third base. Again, this is one where suddenly there are a ton of perfects, right?
Yes.
So let's see. So hold on. That's there. So not too surprisingly, the model likes all three of the perfects. It does see a bit of a gap. And this is kind of interesting where, hold on, that is not the right order. Because what I was going to say is that the model ends up liking Machado a lot better than the other two.
Yeah. But no, it was me, Jose Ramirez. I was on top.
Why is this not connecting? Machado should be number one here.
We believe you. It's number one in our hearts.
There we go. But actually sees like a bit of a gap, I think, as well. So
Yeah, that's a pretty significant gap in looks like the bat there for Machado and Jose. Or
Yeah,
just
even,
Machado
again,
over Jose and Arenado. Yeah.
Yeah, even a small sample size, but also could be from getting platooned. But yeah, definitely for sure, great bat.
and the
Machado's
data
actually
says
really.
similar. Yeah, go ahead.
It's really he's actually like really split neutral. I didn't realize how split neutral he was. That looks awesome.
Yeah, I think. Well, the other thing about Machado is, so we'll talk about that kind of soon. But the model doesn't hate the idea of playing him at short.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I mean, he's better at third, and Tatis is better at short. But but if you get stuck,
If you got stuck. I mean, he certainly could back it up, and you wouldn't hate it, but
yeah, he's not quite fully trained, but he's pretty close, right? He's just not as good. But the bat is so good compared with your shortstop options.
yeah. Other than Tatis, I assume. Yeah.
Other than Tatis, yeah.
Yeah.
But if, say, Tatis is injured or something, then
yeah.
let's see.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I also, when building caps rosters and stuff, sometimes I have to remind myself, not to get too caught up in platoons and like handedness, because sometimes, like even, Machado out of position at short versus righties is going to be better than like iron choices that are available, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, don't. I was try to That's good advice in general. Is, try to not get too clever with things. Sometimes just play the guys with the higher numbers.
It's that
Yep,
simple.
I think that's also why Machado is such a good third base option here, is because even though Ramirez is a switch hitter, Machado is just much better statted, and he's, like I said, he's very split neutral, so he'll play both ways, no problem.
Yeah, one of the things I thought was fun with the live cards this year is it feels like more of them really are well over 100 overall than last year.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. I think there's less of a gap than there was in previous years in the ratings for sure.
Maybe it's just because the future legends set and a couple things like that have been so bad. But at least by comparison, a lot of the lives are playable.
I think
Um,
it comes again too from the BABIP being highly rated more for the overall, and a lot of the live cards don't have great BABIP, so they end up with a little bit more fair overall ratings in the grand scheme of things.
Well, that makes sense.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, if you see a lot of the highest live cards, definitely the high BABIP guys. I mean, even looking at cards that are we saw earlier, like Arias and McNeil, right, are very highly rated because of that BABIP rating. So
Yeah. So I
we
think
even
that's
saw Miles Straw be a 98 at one point because of
That
his
was
BABIP
pretty
and
absurd beginning to
defense.
the year, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
that's a good point. That kind of the live cards got pushed. I mean, what's crazy to me have been the overalls, right? I'm trying to remember, what the typical number of live perfects was last year. But I seem to
It's the
remember it was like
same.
5 or 6 a lot of the time, even, right? There weren't a lot.
No, it's always like I think it's 11 to 13 depending on the year, and there will always be the same number. So like I don't think what a lot of people don't understand for live updates, right? Is they're like, "Oh, this card's going perfect. This card's going perfect." Somebody has to go down for somebody to go up, right? Or they have to end up with a higher overall than another perfect player, right? So
Yeah, and this year, currently we have 17 perfects, I think. So
Yeah, there are a
I
lot
think
more
it's
we
a
have
this year.
little
we
bit
have a
higher
lot
than
this
usual.
year. Okay.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
it's still very much whatever it is. It's normally like a range, but it's most of the time somebody goes up when somebody goes down. Is what
Yeah,
I've
but that
experienced
doesn't
over
that
the past
hasn't
few
been the
years.
case here, right? It's been I can count
No,
real
we
quick.
lost a lot. We lost a lot this month when we got a lot as well.
So
I don't know if we lost as many as we
right
gained,
now
but
there are 17, it looks like.
okay.
I think
Yeah, that's
maybe also too. I think it's kind of a percentage of the overall card pool. Like I think we just have more live cards this year than in prior years at this point.
I would think we do. People have gotten a lot more aggressive with calling up players, and there's still a little bit
Yeah,
of
with
COVID at the
the
beginning of the year,
roster.
and
Yeah, the
yep,
roster rules have allowed for more cards being in the majors. So
which is cool. I like when more
yeah,
people play. I wish they would keep some of
absolutely,
them actually. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So Matt Chapman actually ended up kind of third here in the observed data. Obviously, it's a small sample because kind of it's one tournament, 380 plate appearances.
Hmm.
But I
That's
think a
pretty
lot
small.
of this
And
is
OTP
go ahead.
War loves third base defense
Yeah, that's
and
what
Oh
I was
third
gonna
yes,
say.
it
I
base
think a lot
does.
of
numbers.
this is the defense,
Hmm.
um,
Yep.
and I'm at least not convinced that it's valuing that correctly. But
Well, you could actually see in that sample he hit better than Arenado did, which does not seem right. Um,
that, yeah, that it's there. You go. You know what it is? It's the low avoid K.
yeah, there we go. There we go.
He didn't hit into ground. He didn't ground into double plays, so he's fine.
No.
Exactly.
Um, let's see. A couple guys that really get promoted one side. So Devers, if you can just play him versus righties, which remember is over 3/4 of the pitching pool here.
Hmm.
This is just a great bat.
Yeah, wow, he almost hit as well as Machado did.
Yeah, well you look at the bats side by side and they're pretty close, right?
Hmm.
More gap power, more power, less, a little less eye, but you could see Devers being better one-sided, right?
Yeah, even
Yep.
last year Devers was a really good sneaky platoon play for some formats. This year might kind of the same. Yeah,
I definitely, if I'm platooning third, I usually do put Devers in there.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's a good point. He also may keep going up as the year goes on. which will make him
Yeah,
maybe
Devers is
not as good
tricky
of a
because
gap
his
play, but a better just overall play.
he's tricky too because his defense is so bad and that's so
Yep.
highly rated. And because I think he finished last year as a gold, and people were expecting him to go higher, but he did not.
Yeah, I don't even know if his overall will go up, but his bat will continue to get better, which might actually
Yeah,
be the best thing for a cap, right? If it's
absolutely.
like a cap scenario, he actually
Yeah,
might
if we
end
could
up
get him
being
up
pretty solid. Yep.
to a super bat like 89, that would be sick.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, especially for something like OOTP era or something where they're not going to release a lot of other cards, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
Um,
yeah. Mr. Black has a good point, of course. That uh, for an extra 14 points, I would just go with Machado. But there, sometimes there's limitations of gold or low diamond or diamond. And I know we will see some more. I think there seem to be more on top of switching out tournament formats this year. So
Yep.
we might run into a couple new formats that different cards will play in before the end of the year. So
yeah, so
that's
I think,
cool.
and in fact, one of the things to consider is, in something like a live diamond format, there actually stop being options real quick, and then I think Devers just plays.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, let's see. So all right, so a few kind of efficient options at third. So here's kind of what we had come up with. So this Josh Donaldson card, I think the silver Donaldson is an even better card. And you're never really going to play this because just there are so many bronze third basemen with incredible bats, but he is a really good live card for that overall.
Yes.
Um,
Yes, he is.
and then and I see you kind of felt the same thing. Um, I still think that Warbot must be going crazy because Alec Boehm apparently is being seen as a third baseman.
I don't I actually think it's fine. I was looking at I maybe not like completely identical because there's some pretty good third base defenders in this format, right? But looking at something like bronze third base, you can punt pretty hard and get away with it. And then something like a cap, especially like a low cap, you could totally, I think, squeeze Bowman there and get away with it.
Yeah, it's more just like that glove at third is so far from playable. Um,
Um, he's got the arm. I don't
I,
know. He might even be better than Ref Schneider.
He's better than Morrill.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I don't
He's
think
cer-
that's hold on. I don't think that's true.
he's certainly better than Andujar, I think.
I
But
mean,
Andujar is a 42.
the Phillies have been the
Um,
Phillies have been trying it, right? And it's just not working.
I I know, but that's real life when we we play a fantasy game. I think his glove is actually better than Ref Schneider's. At
Just
third.
looking, he's already he's already -9 runs this season already. It looks like at third base.
In real life? Well, actually, the thing is, remember too that there's defensive adjustments this year in Out of the Park for live cards now. So you could actually see his ratings get worse, which would be a problem for him.
So he could basically be like the Dick Dietz level third baseman here.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
I mean, but
Which
I
would
guess, I guess that
even
then
more.
again, if you're running Torkelson at catcher, why not, right?
Sure. Yeah, I mean that is I just put an all power bats team just to see what would happen, and then I'm like, I have to test this catcher framing thing. Like, does it actually work? And it actually gives me a really nice baseline for my stuff, so I'm leaving him there.
Yeah, I can see it.
Mhm.
Any of these other guys you kind of want to make a pitch for?
Uh Brian's like okay if you believe in third base glove or if you're like want to run high defense. Brian's probably the best glove for the budget, unless you believe more in Chapman. I don't know. They're pretty similar when I was looking at them. I like Brian's bat a lot more than Chapman though.
Got to give a shout out to Kevin Padlow too for being the 40 overall He's a decent, 52 at third base, and he can play first base.
Oh, he's got
He's
eye
worked his
too.
way. Yeah, he's worked his way into a couple of my cap builds too, especially for low builds. Low
That's an
caps.
awesome card. Yeah, I hadn't seen Kevin Padlow before. That looks great.
Yeah,
Uh,
I definitely like the card for the overall. So
yeah, just to answer Oblex, framing runs, as far as I can tell, works actually really well. Like really, really well. I would actually use it when evaluating things.
well, is I guess is that something that is best we can tell is actually coming right out of the game engine? Because there isn't kind of some external stat for it.
Yeah, it has to be. Just like if Sierra, like SIERA, is actually like it has to be coming out of the engine, right? Because unless you're pulling every single game log, which I guess that's what the game's doing for it, right? You can't actually see ground balls, fly balls. You only see ground out, fly out, right? So
Yeah.
I would assume they're actually pulling things because like outfield arm definitely works, and that is very much you can't even. I don't think you could even maybe tell that from the game logs. So
That makes sense. Yeah. Um, but then I
it does Oblex
guess
like
yeah,
it correlates like perfectly. Like ability to framing is like a perfect slide.
that makes sense. Um,
Yep.
yeah. So then I think, but if that's true, yeah, then maybe you can kind of get away with it.
Yep. Absolutely. Like that's why I actually went back to Sockeld VR on my bronze team, which surprised a lot of people.
I see.
Yeah, it's just because you get so much more value from the bat than you lose from the bad framing, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're only losing like I still do my runs as like a full season. I don't do them per tournament, which I should really switch over to when I'm doing a tournament. But
Yeah, I like using in my tournament ones. I guess as you see in this one, I have it normalized per 100 plate appearances, so
okay,
so I get a kind of a good sense of a lot of I try to keep my numbers not rounded, or I mean keep them rounded more rather than going like way out to the decimal and stuff, because it's like once you get down to
yes,
it's the difference between 0.04 and 0.03, like who cares.
yep. Um, but yeah, no, you can lose 10 runs with a glove if you're squeezing out 12 with a bat, and it doesn't matter, right? So
Yeah, like Alejandro Kirk at catcher is still not a good idea.
no, absolutely not.
No, but at DH maybe.
Of
DH
course.
maybe yes.
Yes.
That's a good question. You trained your Tatis. He's up to 91. Um, if he's not fully trained, he will hit worse. I don't know if 91 is full trained. I would assume no. But
Yeah,
cards
they need to
actually
get
hit
higher.
worse when they're not fully trained. So once he actually finishes training, he'll probably start doing a lot better for you, glove and bat. So and Vulcan,
All
it's like
right, let's
over
compare
very
it.
big samples for catcher defense. So it appears to be fully trained. I hope he turns it around then. I'm still playing him in Diamond, and he's been awesome for me, so I would expect him to do better.
There should be a calculator. Maybe someone can throw a link in the chat to see what they train up to. But you'll also know when they're fully trained because it's now just on the card, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it'll tell you on the card now.
Yeah,
So
if you go to the back of the card,
you
So
just
the
have to
rates
play it
page.
at second at some point to be able to tell, right?
Yeah, 91
Yes.
is his top.
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
so you might have to check because like sometimes it'll say something like can still be trained even though it gives you the number and there's like you can chop another point or two out of something.
Yeah.
But
It'll show you if you go to the compare players, the player comparison
Oh, that's right.
screen.
Player compare
Yeah.
does it. Yeah. Good call.
okay, yeah,
Good
that's the
call.
right one. So
Mm-hmm.
okay.
He's trains up to 33 at center field too, if you want to get him a super utility.
I know somebody's training him in left and right because he's actually not terrible there.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm a little less convinced by that one, to be honest. But let's see. All right, should we go on to shortstop since we're talking about Tatis?
Yes,
Sure.
please.
So, and not too surprisingly, Tatis ends up kind of at the top there. And the model actually even just says, you know what, Manny Machado's bat is so good, you can play him at short.
Why not?
Um, Again, he's a better third baseman. He's maybe even a better DH, but just it's so hard to find a bat at short that if you've got a Machado, you probably can do it if you have Machado and don't have one of the others, right?
Yep.
Um, the observed, looks pretty similar. Shockingly, we haven't actually observed any Machados at short, I don't think. So no one's quite doing this in the wild.
I'm doing the shocked Pikachu face right now.
But it doesn't
All right,
mean
you
they
guys
shouldn't
heard him. We need data on Machado at shortstop in the next live open. All right, so get to work. All right.
If anyone can, can help us out a little bit here. You never know. It's worth asking, right? Let's see. I don't know. Any other thoughts? I mean, I think this Tatis card in particular is just playable in all sorts of formats right now.
Yeah, I mean, in Diamond League, he is still a top 5 shortstop.
I am running him, I guess now as a platoon, but I am running him at short in my Diamond League. Although the way my team's going this season, I'm probably the wrong guy to ask.
He was full time for me the past 3 seasons, and I just got a Brandon Crawford, so I'm platooning them now.
I just got Pop, and so I'm trying to run him one way now.
Pop is real bad. I actually think my thing might like Tatis better VR than Pop.
That is spicy. I like it.
That is very spicy, but I think Pop is like one of the worst cards that people are playing right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. For those Negro League missions, I thought really the true toppers were Jackie and Turkey rather than the mission rewards.
I actually have cool Papa being a top 5 player if you can use his observed stolen bases instead of his projected, because people with over 100 speed have another like curve that's different, right? So if you use Cool Papa Bell's observed stolen bases, he's really good. And Bullet Joe is like a top 3 pitcher right now.
Oh yeah,
so they're okay.
Yeah, he's definitely a real, especially if you can manage to run an opener or just like do something to protect his splits a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah. And he backs up in right field, which is cool. Center field too,
Yeah. As the game goes on too, like even if we get, several starters who are better, like Bullet Joe is going to be a great bullpen arm when you can get him those right-handed matchups.
He's going to be a great bullpen arm, and also I think he's going to be a cap card maybe the whole way, because it's just really hard to find two-way cards that play.
Look, if Bob Carruthers played the entire year last year, right, from start to finish in caps, like there's no way that Bullet Joe, which is just almost better except for the speed, right, is not going to play. He'll play.
Yeah, I have no problem recommending people sell out, go all out to get Bullet Joe.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yep. Super fun too, because it just opens up a whole world of cap building, right? If you can play him in there.
Yeah, even in league, in perfect league now, he's still hitting fine as an occasional pinch hitter and back up several positions.
He was like a top 70 hitter on my sheet for the entire game, right? In like a diamond environment, which is so cool,
Yeah,
very good.
Yeah, I think just like you're going to use him in almost every cap format and just not have to think too hard about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So.
Yep.
I think that makes a lot of sense to me.
But anyway, shortstops. What do we got?
Shortstops.
Waxing poetic here. Sorry.
Let's see. Couple guys that just sort of do better with splits. Lindor in particular. there just aren't a lot of switch hitting shortstops, and I think this is why he did well kind of in the observed data here too. And then Bogarts, like Devers, just if you can platoon him, it's just a great bat, right?
It makes such a good third base platoon. If Bogarts would ever play third base in real life, please do it. Stop playing shortstop on my team. Ugh.
Yes. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that looks great.
Are you also a Sox fan? Is that?
I'm a big Sox fan. Yeah. I live in Yankee territory, but I've always been a Sox fan. So
Yeah, I was born in Boston. I only lived there for a couple of years before moving to Philadelphia. But if you're born in Boston, it's just on the books somewhere. You have to be a Sox and Celtics fan.
Yep.
So let's see. In the observed data, perhaps not too surprisingly, Tatis was on all four of the semifinal teams. Again, it's just a really good card.
Yes.
So, all right, who are some of the most efficient cards? Well, actually, not too surprisingly, we both also, think Tatis is just, even in a cap format, this is a card that's much more efficient than the 100 that's posted on the overall. It's playable, right?
Yes.
I don't know what else to say there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a really good card. Yeah, what else? What about some of the others? Anyone you want to make a case for here?
I forgot about Didi. That card is amazing. Totally forgot about him. 60 something range is a 42 overall. Great card, right? I put in Adamas because he's 73 range and he's actually got a pretty solid bronze bat. So if you like a tweener, for some reason you don't have a Tatis like your Seawit, and Adamas is actually a pretty sick play. And there's also, I had to put Andrelton Simmons in because it's my boy, and he's probably still got one of the best live defenses for the cost. So
yeah.
Another one to shout out that is a brand new one as of this week is Lennon Sosa, the future White Sox legend, perhaps. But he's a new 40 overall that plays a nice round 50 at second and short. So,
well, that's a great card.
Could be a good emergency cap kind of guy.
Yeah,
that
very much
sense.
a defensive only, but he's a free card, so that's a pretty good utility right there.
Yep, see what mentioned him here too. Yeah, his bat is terrible, but he's a warm body with a glove. So
The guy I was using for that was Vinny Capra, who I don't think he's fully trained at short, but he's kind of bad everywhere, so that almost doesn't matter.
There's pretty good synergy with Sosa and Capra. Between the two of them, they've got about a 50 rating at second, third, short, and left. So just need to toss together a bench in like 5 seconds, and you don't have any space. There you go.
It's not a bad setup. So there's an interesting thing with Didi, and I'm curious what your thoughts are here. So this is, I think, something that comes up a lot in caps, just sort of for roster building, but also is something that they've kind of done a good job of giving us choices with, I think, this year. So Didi is just excellent for that 42 overall, right? But only plays short. And similarly, you've got, a great 42 that only plays second base now, right?
Yep.
You got something, you got a couple similar options that are like just playing right or maybe first and right. So when you're thinking about filling out a roster, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to basically decide that someone like Didi is so efficient that you're going to use a roster spot for him as a backup, even though we can only back up one spot, and as good as he is, he's probably not going to be your starting shortstop?
It's tough. I think it really depends. Like, you really want a middle infielder who can do both middle infield spots, right, as a backup. It's really helpful. But he's so efficient, right? And shortstop is like such a premium position. And he's actually probably going to play better defense than a lot of your other options, right?
Yeah.
With a decent bat, too. He's one of the guys that's literally just so good. I would consider putting a roster spot in for him, right?
Yeah, I think the problem I have right now is I have the same issue with him and then Richardson at second, and I definitely can't run both.
Yeah, you just have to get clever with it. Yeah, it might not be good. I can't think of a roster where I've ever been able to like build with more than one or two of those kind of guys.
I think the one
But if you
maybe,
have one,
yeah,
you can kind of design your bench around it. If you've got something where there's a platoon, or you're able to DH one way and then have them back up a position the other way, that sort of thing. Um, you can get clever with the jigsaw puzzle. It can work. I don't think it's necessarily the easiest or best way, but if you can pull it off, it's great.
So I have a question for cap players. So not myself. I really don't play very many caps, but to me, Richardson's obviously going to hit for contact, right? And
yeah.
doubles, you know. But his defense is so bad, and he doesn't have power or eye. I feel like it's a card that's not actually going to be that good. Like, obviously, it's 2 points, right? But when I'm comparing him to Didi, I would much rather have Didi on my team if I'm spending that one roster slot on a player that only plays one spot. And actually, I don't think it's that close.
So I have run both, but the one time I'm running them is Iron Cap, because there I'm just running them as
Okay.
starters. I'm just running them as
Right,
starters. And I'm
obviously,
deciding
yeah.
they're efficient, and because they're starters, they don't have to play multiple positions. And then
Yes.
I'm just spending my points elsewhere.
Yeah, it's obviously
Yeah,
very
that's
environment based, but once we start like looking at like maybe gold cap and above, I probably wouldn't be playing Richardson. I don't think.
Yeah, that's absolutely my point. I think is the level matters because there are defense plays in any level.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yes.
with the lower you go, that you might be able to get away with different combinations of that balance between the defense and bat. So yeah, there are some
Yeah.
guys where it's just not worth it to like you wouldn't want them as your open cap, but maybe in bronze cap or round cap, yeah, it might be a much better decision. So
And the
It's
other
also a
thing
good
is
part.
it's a left. Didi's a lefty again, and this is
Yeah,
just such a right-handed meta when you're looking at live cards.
yes, well,
yeah, I like
most
that.
metas are just right-handed in general too. So
Yeah, I like the comment in chat that says it depends on what the alternatives are, right? Because I guess in certain formats you probably just start Bobby Richardson, right? If on lower tier caps, I guess would probably be a pretty sweet option. So, and
Yeah,
obviously, if you're not playing perfect live, like if it's a live tournament that's not a perfect, there's actually a pretty decent consideration to play somebody like DD at short, right? Because you don't have Tatis or Correa. So,
yeah, so the gold cap is going on right now, and this is another thing. The number of the cap, because the gold cap is 1875, which is really high for a gold cap. So I found myself using some of those guys who are in the like high 40s, 50s range as my bench
Mhm.
players instead of the 40s, just because I had more room. So there's also not just the level of what's available, but also the cap number starts getting interesting. You're going to be making different decisions with a 1500 cap versus an 1875 or 2000 kind of cap.
Absolutely,
yeah.
yes.
So actually, yeah, some of those cap choices that we're saying, like Adames, like, well, maybe Adames would be worth a look in something like gold cap. But
And I think that also depends a lot on what the competition is going to be, because if you're looking at like a 1500 cap, that means you're also going to be getting some at bats against lousy pitching that you might not in the gold cap,
Yep, sure.
right? You know, Didi's ratings are really good against iron pitching, but
Hmm.
still kind of useless in against like gold cap pitching. Um,
Cool. This is the
so
third. What is it? Left field time now.
yeah, so let's talk about some outfielders.
I like how we didn't preface this to the stream, but we were talking about. You mentioned keeping this short. It's not going to be short. It never is, right?
No, but
But
that's
that's okay. That's the fun of it, right? Is we're just people who are nerds who like to talk, and that's what makes it beautiful, you know.
it's all right.
speak for
My
yourself,
goal is
nerd.
always to see how many tournaments I can get knocked out of while on stream. So
The streamer tournament RNG is not good. I can tell you that from experience. This is bad.
It's even worse though if you try to stream the games, right?
Oh, it's so much. Then you get knocked out in the first round, and then you have to refresh it every single round. Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Just look at all the people who are winning who aren't you.
Yo.
All right. So left field. So the model actually just says you can play Jordan here. I was kind of mentioning this a little bit earlier, right? In part because there's a limited number of other options, right? So the model just says play Jordan. I know you were saying you didn't like him that much as an outfielder, that just he can't play defense, right?
No, I said I thought it was okay because he's like 50 range. Like the bat is gonna probably make up for the glove. I'm okay with it, especially because first base is so stacked too. It lets you play all three of them if you want to.
I still think of the three. I think Jordan's better as a DH though. In the observed though, people are playing him and he is doing well.
Well, you can't play. You could only play two if you were DHing Jordan, right? Because Goldschmidt and Freeman don't play other positions, right? So this is the only way you get all three in.
That's true. See, I keep forgetting because I keep just thinking of Goldschmidt as a guy that can only play versus lefties, and that's just not true with this rating.
No, it's not. He's awesome. Yeah. And obviously Soto can play right field. Like if Soto was only left field, I would argue against it, but Soto can play right field, so.
Yeah, I think I might like Soto better as a right fielder even.
Yes. Yes.
Let's see. And then if you're going to look at a couple guys that, really do well as platoon bats, Acuna, of course, looks pretty good. And this Brantley card, if you can manage to play a platoon bat, and again, this is 3/4 of your plate appearances, should be pretty good. Awful in the limited data in this sample.
Yeah, that's not pretty. But the card is good, yeah.
The ratings say he should be good.
I mean, it's only 360 plate appearances, right? Like, that's such a small number,
Yeah, I think that's fair. And
yeah.
Again, I think so playing Jordan and left just lets you get the bat in the lineup, and I think that's probably what a lot of people are doing.
Yeah. If I was constructing a team, I would do the same. I would try and get all the big bats in the lineup as possible. I might even punt certain positions like second base just to squeeze in the big bats into the cap, right?
Yeah, I can see that. Well, especially because, again, there are some cheap second base options.
There really are some good ones, right? So if we're talking like live open cap, I want Tatis, I want Machado, I want maybe all three first basemen and Soto, right? So
yeah.
Those would be my big spends, I think.
I think that sounds pretty good, yeah. Maybe someone like Jordan becomes the bat you skip in that case. Well, no, I think I'd skip Freeman.
So good.
I think
I would skip Freeman. I would skip Freeman too. Yes.
Yeah.
If I had to skip one of those bats, it would be Freeman. But if you can afford him, he's still good, right?
Let's see. And Taylor Ward actually comes up here as well as kind of someone that was, did well in the tournament. Maybe not so well in terms of WAR, but he is a winner. So I think this is, again, one of these places where there are just a lot of efficient options, compared with these big ones. What?
He's a really good card, Taylor Ward. I had not seen him post-update. That looks fantastic. He's like almost 70 on everything on his bat, like 65, 70 ratings, except for Avoid K.
And even better if you can manage to platoon him, right?
No, he's actually pretty split neutral.
That's right. I'm thinking before the update, he was a platoon bat, right? And he ended up more neutral.
Yeah, no, he's good now. And he might even play up a little in right field because he does have a bit more of an arm-heavy defensive profile. And he's fully trained there as well, which is nice. So he also can play catcher, which is cool. He plays first base and catcher.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Not well, but he does do it.
Yeah, but sometimes you just need the option, right?
Exactly. It's very important in caps to have all those crazy options available so you can just rest your starters, right?
Um, I mean, I look the first time I managed to win a weekly this season, I did in fact play Buck Leonard at shortstop.
Did Oblix, did you play Taylor Ward at catcher full time? I see what called him out in the chat for it. That's fantastic. Last week you did it like in a tournament or in league? Which one? That's really interesting. He was your catcher with Bronze Kirk. Oh, that's funny. In the live open? Oh, so you just punted defense and went for bats?
I mean, he's. I guess he's not fully trained at catcher. He's 17 of
He would probably
35.
he would be worse than Kirk. Yes,
But better than Torkelson.
for science. I don't even know. Maybe being partially trained is worse than Torkelson. We'd have to find out. Oh, that's fantastic.
We
I
could
love
just
when
have
people do those.
We could have a cap confessions stream sometimes, like your
What's
your
the
most
worst thing?
shameful plays in a tournament.
Well, like I
Oh,
said,
gosh.
the worst play I've had to tournament was trying Buck Leonard and Mickey Vernon at shortstop.
This year,
This year, and I won the tournament.
oh my gosh!
I won
You did it with
I won a weekly playing them at shortstop.
ah.
In case anybody is wondering, let me see if I can find the stats on this. But in case anyone was curious, Buck Leonard is not a very good shortstop.
It doesn't have rating there.
No, he doesn't.
Don't-
So I can tell you what happened. Was I basically was I sort of got stuck updating a roster at the last minute, and just like managed to like not end up with a shortstop.
Oh my gosh!
So when that happens, somebody's got to like get a glove and go out there and find the position, right?
I guess you're very lucky it let you put him there.
Well, no, it didn't let. No. The AI made that decision. So I've got data on a bunch of guys. So in case you're wondering, here we go. Buck Leonard, 145 range factor at shortstop. That's not good.
That's
What,
not bad.
1,000?
What?
Out of what, 1,000?
No. As in, like a typical range factor probably should be what four high fours, something like that in one of these formats.
That's one of the
Look-
game like loading quotes, right? Where was it? Reggie Jackson was talking about his IQ.
Okay.
Was it?
Yeah.
Where he was saying he's got like
mine-
100 something IQ. He's like, out of what, 1,000?
So my Edgar, which is training at first base, is like a 4, and my Jimmy Fox is like a 9 range factor right now with
Okay.
70 first base defense.
So Buck Leonard 145. Iron the Iron Bubbles Hargrave had a range factor of 3.09, but did have a fielding percentage of 857.
That's you take that. Why is that so good?
It's over 300, right? That's pretty good.
Yeah, over 3 is
Baseball
like
rules.
Brandon Crawford is a 3.6 right now.
But he did have a 857 fielding percentage, so there were some errors. Buck Leonard had made no errors. I mean, he probably only had he probably only made plays on the balls that were hit straight at him. But
That's what I'm saying. Like the batters, we celebrate if they hit 300. Maybe let's not neglect the fielders. Let's give them some kudos for hitting 850 out there. That's great.
Mickey Vernon at shortstop put up an 833 for me. But again, range factor over 3. The best thing about Mickey Vernon, though, was that he put up a negative 6.6 ZR in just 9 games at short.
I mean, really, the only stat that I care about here is, you know what it is? It's the W.
That's right. It's
You won.
I love that somebody in chat pointed out that Buck Leonard's a lefty.
Yeah.
Lefty shortstop sounds great.
Yeah, I wonder if you can force the game into playing a left-handed fielder at catcher
Well,
if you
hold on,
didn't
hold
put
on. But
anyone
to be
in, right?
fair, a lefty shortstop that just doesn't reach any ball to his right is probably fine.
I guess. Also, there is one lefty catcher in MLB history, DB, from way back. So I think it probably would let you.
Yeah,
Because he had a card last year or 2 years ago. Which is kind of cool.
science again.
Yep.
So here you go. So you're getting some additional free tips today, like don't play Buck Leonard at shortstop.
This is what the people are here for.
So, all right. So some people, right. So some efficient options in left field here. You know, so I kind of wanted to mention a few iron options that looked interesting, right?
Hmm.
So let's see. Travis Demerit, I think, is one that a bunch of people have just been playing in iron from time to time at one point, right? So that's one
Yeah.
we're probably familiar with. The other two I hadn't really looked at till they showed up on the screen here. And this Mickey Moniak in particular looks really efficient for 3 points to me.
I think he's been a good cap card over the years for Out of the Park, if I recall correctly.
Harris
His defense is awesome.
Harris is tough because Harris is basically a bad center fielder and a good but not fully trained left and right fielder.
Yeah, and he's
There's a
already
lot of those guys.
yeah, he's already not as good defensively as some of the other ones, and I don't know. I probably would skip Harris, I think, for 13 points, but the other two look fantastic.
Yeah, and Moniak's also not fully trained in left, but he's at least closer, right? And he's just better defensively.
Hmm.
Michael Harris. I mean, Harris is a good one just to keep an eye on. You know, he's been doing really well this year.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
Yeah, kind of came out of nowhere for the Braves.
I kind of want the opposite, right? Like that card to me would be a lot more. No, I mean that card to me would be
Right.
a lot more interesting if you drop the bat a little bit and bring him down to like 45. I'd suddenly want to play him.
Exactly.
Just send him a tweet. Hey, dude, can you play more in left and right field and don't hit as well? Thank you.
Well, yeah, because I think I'm pretty sure what happened is they called him up when Acuna went down, and now he's back. Maybe he will have to get moved around a little bit more.
Yeah.
So Hilliard, I like that choice of yours because he is fully trained at all three of the outfield positions, right?
Yes, he is, and he plays good defense. He runs a little bit. He's kind of power I and nothing else, like 50 power, 50 I. So he's pretty solid. I don't know if he's worth 12, but he's not bad.
Yeah,
very good defense in left.
The bat's just. I mean, the bat probably is going to be worse than Moniak, right? It's close because he's got the extra eye.
Yeah, the eye is really what I love. I mean, I don't know if it's worth because Moniak's big number is gap power, right? And gap power, you know.
So, I like gap power, especially for guys that can run a little bit. And Moniak does I guess Moniak it's the base running, not the speed, right? So the gap power doesn't play up as much.
Correct, right? You want the speed with the gap power, yeah, for the triple percent. So.
And then I hadn't looked at Tyler O'Neill at all, but I like the shape of that card for a live silver.
This bat showed up super high on him. It was one of the first guys when I was looking for all these cards. I was like, I have to talk about this guy. His VL bat is nasty. I think you probably have to platoon him, just because of the big eye gap, big power gap. But he only plays left field really. But if you don't want to put Alvarez out there and you put Soto in left, maybe you platoon Brantley and O'Neill, and that's a really, really good outfield powerhouse there.
Yeah, and I like Isbell. Again, I just don't quite like paying all the way up for a high bronze for him. But again, as a guy that plays good expensive defense at three positions,
Yeah, well, he's not trained in right as much, so I think I would probably rather just actually straight up have Hillard to Isbell. I thought Isbell was faster. My memory escaped me. I thought he was a speed and defense guy, and so maybe, but probably not.
He's a little bit. He's let me see. Yeah, 62 speed, 81 stealing, 70 base running.
Not enough. Not enough. Need more.
Um, all right, in center, and actually, I guess that some of these names are going to appear on all three of these lists probably, right? And so we could have put some of these in a few outfield spots. But yeah, moving on to center again. Not too surprising. The model just says like, hey, take the ones with the big overall,
Yep.
right? The data also not too surprising. Again, yep, big overall is good. We don't have a lot of data on Acuna there just because he's playing the other outfield positions a little bit more, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the big thing here is just that this Trout card is just a really, really good bat, right? And
Yes.
in fact, because he plays defense in center, this might even be a better Trout card than like the Silver Trout.
Yeah. Is that the highest WOBA number we've seen so far? Like higher than Tatis? I think.
I
Pretty
think
sure it
so,
is on
yeah,
Trout.
because Woba's really heavily I here, right? What was
It
Soto?
is. Yes.
I'll check Soto in a second.
Yep.
Yeah, I think in this data, only Goldschmidt had a higher WOBA overall from
Okay.
yesterday's tournament.
So second highest. Okay.
Let me see. Yeah, Goldschmidt 387, and then Trout, and then
I mean,
Jordan at 378.
really, no question then who you're going to play if you're spending right. It's going to be Trout.
Absolutely, yeah. He's one of the cards. I think unlike Tatis, I don't think he's as relevant in league. But
No, definitely not. There's a lot of good league center field options that play a similar defense and actually have a better bat, which is kind of cool. So
Yeah, not this year, but in past years, Trout remained like one of the few live cards that was viable in league for a while.
yeah, I think Trout and Soto last year were the really good ones.
Yeah,
if I recall.
Tatis is out of 23 now. So.
Yes, Tatis is definitely well. There's a lot of good live relief pitchers right now, like Minter, Clase, and I'm even playing Tyler Rogers is good if I got the right Rogers brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're all three of those cards are like super high end options right now in league. So
I think we'll talk about relievers again a little bit. So yeah, Teddy, I think we had talked about this kind of on the Silver stream. That the problem with the kind of the Silver Trout is he doesn't play defense and he only plays the one position. And then he's just not quite good enough as a DH.
Yes. It is almost the exact problems I have with like the bronze Vlad Guerrero, right?
Yeah.
So I guess technically he plays corner outfield, but yeah.
But I think it's the same problem, yeah. That sort of there just isn't quite a spot. Whereas here, Trout just seems like more of an obvious option, right?
It was Open Silver you guys did, right? Stream?
I think we did Open Silver, but I think in Caps you're gonna have the same issue because just so many of the big bats in Silver kind of are the same, right?
Yeah.
You're just gonna be playing all of these, expensive tournament edition cards. Oh, so this is we should actually put these links up because the streams expire here after 14 days, but we've thrown them on YouTube so that you can see the older ones. Let me see if I can find a link to that, and if not, let me see.
Yeah, for the future we can just put that on the Twitch.
Yeah, why don't we put let's say we'll put that link up later. Maybe is that the best way to do it? Or hold on, let me.
Later seems like a good deadline.
Yeah, we'll definitely figure that out.
Let's see.
I can't find it just looking for it, but
okay, here you go. I think I got it. I think that's the link to the Silver one.
yes, it is. Sweet. I am your first subscriber.
And we'll put the others up. We'll put the others up going forward.
Awesome. I will
So,
definitely plug this on my Discord after the stream too.
so.
One viewer? Yeah, it was me. I'm the first one.
Okay, so what I should do though is I should figure out how to do like the little chapter thing so that it tells you like here's where the second basemen are in there and stuff.
Oh,
So
I love when people do that on videos. So nice.
yeah, let me see if I can learn how to do that, and we'll do that once we figure it out. Um,
Mhm.
all right, so yeah, again, kind of the high-rated ones, except Acuna. A couple guys that seem to be better as platoon bats. I liked him even more before the last update, but Springer's still a really good bat against lefties.
Take a look here.
Um, Hap, I'm less convinced by, but at least you get a switch hitter out of it, right?
Yeah, Springer looks fantastic because he's all eye and power almost versus lefties. Love those two ratings this year. Um, Hap is actually a crazy on base hitter VR. He's got a 10-point eye gap towards righties with 70 BABIP too. That's actually really nice. He's got 75 eye. The defense is going to be lacking in center, but he plays left and right.
Well, he's a bad center fielder, but he makes up for it by being a bad right fielder, a bad third baseman, a bad second baseman.
Very bad first baseman, but he plays left. I guess if he wanted a cheaper left, he's not that cheap though. He's an 89 now. I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably not it, but the bat VR is very nice. I will say.
Yeah. Let's see. So, all right. Your biggest winner is also Trout. So, all right.
Mm-hmm.
So who do we recommend kind of as some efficient options? Well, Warbot just says, you know what? Trout is just really good. Warbot basically says Trout is something like 5 WAR per full season, better than your next best center field option right now among live cards.
Oh,
So really just
Warbot
the
has
biggest gap
Marte.
there.
I didn't see that when I was researching. That's surprising to me, but his bat is fantastic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think the bat's
So
great. The defense isn't wonderful, but actually it's not as bad
it's
as
all
it
range.
looks. Because
Yeah, it's
exactly.
73 range. It is pretty splitty towards the right side, especially with the avoid case, but I guess we don't care about that too much. But it's a fantastic doubles hitting card. That's gonna walk enough, right?
Yeah.
If you couldn't get a Trout, I probably would pick this card. I think. Probably what I
Maybe.
would do. I think.
And then we've got Mickey in there again, just sort of as an option at a bunch of these positions.
Yep, he's fantastic. Pache is just like the cheapest glove that you can grab, right? Literally does not hit a baseball, but he plays defense. I'd rather probably spend for him than spend for Bader, I think, because Bader also can't hit a baseball. And then Quinn was just one of those guys that's like a super pinch runner, super defender. He's 53, so he's a little pricey, but it's nice to have like one pinch runner on the team, I feel.
Although he does have more speed than stealing, right? So that's a little bit dangerous.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, it's a little dangerous, definitely. The ratio is not good, but it's kind of hard to find low guys with speed this year. I think that's definitely changed in the overall evaluation as well.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's right. Pache, you can't go wrong with the defense. I just think the bat is maybe too bad to kind of get away with.
Yeah, I agree. But there's some people who center field is one of their positions. They'll always punt the bat, and I don't think it's necessarily wrong. You do gain a lot of defensive value out of it. So if you're going to do it somewhere, it's one of the better places to do it. Right?
Yeah, and it's also worth pointing out that 92 comes from 91 range, right? So it's actually really better than a 92.
Yep. It's great range is the reason you want them for sure.
So let's see. So Mr. Black, that's a good point about kind of the utility guy playing 5 out of 7 games and that Hap can do that. The problem I have is that sort of Hap plays all of these positions poorly, right? He's kind of undertrained at some of them. Let me see if I can pull up the ratings again. Yeah, so he's going to play like 34 at second, 32 at third, 19 at first. So he really kind of is only playing, left, center, and maybe a little bit of right, I'd say.
Yeah, unless I'm looking at like corner outfield or third base, or first base really. So corner outfield, corner infield, I really want people to be fully trained up the middle, right? When you're thinking about a utility guy. So
I think that makes sense. Yeah.
mm,
Especially if you are trying to at least get some defense out of it. The other thing to consider is that your utility guy is going to end up playing all sorts of positions, just being brought into the game as a pinch hitter or replacement, after a pinch hitter or something like that. Right? So it's even that much tougher to get the manager not to do something weird with the positioning. And if you tell the
yeah.
AI, yeah, this guy's technically a second baseman, um,
Even if you don't list him as a second baseman, if he's technically a second baseman, he's going to get time at second base, right? It was the old last year. What was it? Chicken Wolf had that issue,
Yeah.
playing
was
shortstop
playing
all the time.
shortstop. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I've seen my silver Edgar show up at third in a tournament or two.
Oh no.
You know, I mean, technically he's an eligible zero rated third baseman, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Oh, the AI manager.
all right, right field, right field.
Right field.
um,
Yeah.
let's see. All right, so again, we'll kind of the model just says, yep, go with the really high ratings. Bryce Harper's great. The model does like Soto at 90 over Judge, and I think we've kind of been saying this too, that eye on Soto is just so good.
Yes.
Um,
Yep.
although I note in the really limited data that actually he hasn't done as well, right?
Yeah, that was surprisingly low for Soto.
Yeah,
Might
again, I
just
mean,
be the
it's a
limited
tiny sample,
sample.
but yeah,
Um,
Yeah, I mean,
that was
all the
a
sample
surprising
numbers are
one.
very low. Oh yeah, it's only 300 plate appearances. Wow.
yeah, not a lot of people playing
Is
Soto. I think this is something we see a lot in tournaments. It takes a while for managers to decide that they can really jump down an overall, right?
Mm-hmm.
They kind of look at the 99 for Judge and the 90 for Soto and just sort of say, well, it's 9 points difference. Maybe I'll play Judge until someone shows me Soto's better.
Well, especially to Judge just was a perfect a few days ago, right? So probably it's one of those things where Harper and Judge, it's just a perfect. You just play them over the diamond, right? When
Yeah.
I don't think it's this. I think certainly in Judge's case, it's not better than Soto.
I will say with Soto too, when we're looking at Woba, that definitely weighs heavily with the extra base hits, and he does not hit those. But his OBP was great.
Yes.
Again, just behind Goldschmidt and Freeman, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's also one of these things where it depends on the player pool, right? Like just right now as a set, the pitchers in the game are not great control pitchers.
Mm-hmm.
So someone
yeah.
like Soto should really play up, I think.
Yeah, and it's one of those
And
things too where Harper is like a very environmental card because he's so split heavy, right? Like if some of these like live lefty starting pitchers become better, maybe you see Harper fall off a lot, right? But right now he looks super dominant, that's for sure with this meta.
Yeah, the other thing is that I is one of these things that kind of because the calculation comes first. I just always plays.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
So let's
yeah, I
see.
think for live open especially too, I would not underrate the gap rating in terms of they're the defensive outfilders are not on average as good as they would be in a non-live format.
Hmm.
So you end up, at least I think it works out the way that you end up with bigger gaps to hit doubles and triples in. So
Yeah, especially some of the guys we've been talking about. I think the eye. So I think the eye is going to play. And gap power is also one of these things that's sneaky because when you mouse over the card, it's not there, right? So
Yes.
so it's kind of easy to
I was
forget
going
about it.
to. It's a very ignored statistic. I think out of the five, the main ones, you look at gap probably the least important, maybe, but it's definitely something to consider when you're putting together league and tournament rosters. That if you're building you can kind of go either way with getting guys who strike out a lot and hit a lot of home runs, get the three true outcomes, guys who are slow, or you try to build guys who are playing station to station, knocking them around the bases. So
I think it's
Yeah.
very important if you are a BABIP based hitter to have good gap power, right? And good
Yes.
speed too. If you have the gap power, then you want the speed to turn those doubles into triples. But like a card like Clemente, we saw released recently, right? Who's not eye, not power, very little gap power, right? And so all he does is hit empty singles and he has no speed. Like this card is, it's just a singles hitter. It's not worth it, right? It's just not worth it,
Yeah. I think it was Willie Randolph, the gold second baseman last year, was also kind of the same way. Just crazy hitting BABIP, but then has like 6 speed or something and just gets picked off or double played immediately. So
Yeah, I see
yeah,
that.
no,
I've seen that too, Mr. Black. I think really what we're trying to say here is it's just everything, pretty much everything matters. It's just really context, right? And certain player builds are going to be better than others, right? Like obviously gap doesn't matter on a power eye hitter, but it's so important on a contact hitter, right? So,
yeah, it's kind of my pet thing too with league. Just because gap, you can change the ballpark factors so much more than average and power. You can bump up gap to 0.5
Yes.
or 1.5 instead of 0.9 or 1, which I don't think a lot of people realize because I still see, even to this day, a lot of ballparks with 1.1, they go maxed everything and they put the gap at 1.1 too. It's like, no, that can go up to 1.5. You can go higher.
Yep.
So if you can build a team around that way, and I think that's how I'm surviving in Perfect League right now. It's just that I'm going all like BABIP and gap.
Oh, fun. Love that build.
I mean, I'm not winning, but I'm getting there. So,
Yep. And that's better than most of us, right?
That's all right. I'm not winning a diamond, right?
I'm not either because I got B-Jammin in my league, and it might be the best diamond team performance I've ever seen in my life. Like across any perfect league game. Oh my gosh. That man's sliders must be perfect. That's all I'm
he
saying.
does that.
No,
He really does. I mean, his base running is ridiculous, right? Yeah.
For us, this has just been our week to get slammed with the 10 games under Pythagorean thing, but that it happens occasionally. But I think the other point about ballpark factors, which is worth thinking about, is you can even tune it more because you can tune doubles and triples separately.
Yeah.
So you can have a park that has a ton of triples and no doubles.
Yeah, if you're running Cool Papa and Kurt Welch kind of type guys,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really good point too. Let's see. All right, couple
beat him in
guys
7?
that have some good platoon splits. So this to me is where Taylor Ward kind of really is a card you should still be thinking about, right? If you look at him versus lefties, the bat's just great.
Mm-hmm. And then Kyle Tucker. Let's take a look. Yeah, it's just a very well-rounded VR bat. Nothing really super special here. He plays okay defense. He'll run the bases okay.
What I really like is that if they do kind of go with some sort of live gold format, they kind of keep changing them up.
Mm-hmm.
Tucker's just so much better at high gold than low diamond in terms of the way you can use them.
Yes, sure, absolutely. Right, because are you ever gonna play Tucker over 1 point for Soto? No. Would you play Tucker if you couldn't play Soto or any of the other cards above him? Probably, right?
Yeah.
So. If we ever get a live gold or a low gold format, sorry.
Low gold?
Those 84s will be...
Taylor Ward, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I mean, one of these times we'll get the like, mid afternoon tea time snack, low gold, high diamond cap or something.
The second breakfast Harry Feet special.
So
Uh,
let's see.
So,
Right. So
go for it,
Bryce
Brendan.
Harper, kind of ended up on the most of these winning teams, but I think again maybe the more interesting are some of these kind of efficient cards that we came up with. And I think, again, we both just looked at Soto and decided that that's a really efficient card, right?
yes. 10 points down, gonna play up, right?
Um, so you notice that what Warbot did is manage to find a card with even lower avoid K.
Yes, it did, didn't it?
We trained him well.
Oh,
um,
let's take a look. Oh, this is a new card because I don't have this.
yeah.
Wow. 60
In
eye both
fact,
ways, 75 range, play center field. That looks awesome.
it looks awesome. Although I'm looking right now, and it's going to cost you 216 points for an iron on the card shop. So maybe wait a little bit to pick this one up.
So if you want to know how he got those stats, right now his 2022 MLB
Yeah, I'm
stat line
curious.
is he's 1 for 5 with 4 strikeouts.
Nice. I hope he doesn't get called back up because this card is awesome. No.
I mean, I will say, I actually love this shape. I mean, you see why he ends up right at the top of this list. This is
It
almost
is
the perfect shape for a cap card. He plays
Yes,
excellent.
yes,
He
it is.
plays absolutely excellent right field defense. He also, it's a range heavy, 75 range. Also plays center, fully trained, right?
hmm
Actually has some stealing ability, although mediocre speed. Um, and the main flaw with he has eye, right? I mean, he's 43, so there are flaws with the card, but the flaws with the card basically are that he strikes out 80% of the time.
Yeah, if you're spending on a lot of big cards, this could easily be your backup and play everything in the outfield, right? For 3 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
All
I
right,
mean,
chat has noticed. So I'll
the
explain. I picked Joey Gallo because at his current rate, he may be a bronze card soon, right? And if he's a bronze card soon, that power and that eye is actually crazy value for that card overall. So this is in the future, maybe next update or the one after. You could be playing Joey Gallo in your cap tournament soon.
I mean, you might actually, but with that defense, right?
The
It's tough to
defense is great.
it's tough to tell when you get these really extreme profiles, right? Like I wanted the Kingman to be a lot better in 22 than it was.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Marcus Wilson, I think, is one of these that I just sort of came across, on this screen. I hadn't seen the card before, and this might be my favorite one of these cap picks. It's still not as efficient, I mean, I guess I'd still take like Tatis and Trout just because of how efficient they are compared with the others, but I think Marcus Wilson might actually end up on a lot of my cap builds now,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Especially because sadly my old option will probably everybody's old Trace Thompson play 3 position option has now sadly gone and added 5 points and become much less interesting as a cap card, right?
Yep.
Trail on the
Um,
level of Derek Hill.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh, that card last year was amazing.
um,
And also the cool thing too, like if you compare Mickey McDonald to Marcus Wilson, same overall. The amount of stuff you lose for those 20 points of avoid K is kind of absurd. I'd much rather have Marcus Wilson, except for maybe that Mickey McDonald technically is a lefty, and he's a little bit better of a base runner, right?
yeah, but then and I guess Mickey technically plays third base.
technically he's slightly better defender too, slightly better bunter, so you could just make him a bunt for hit guy, sack bunt guy. But
Let me see. And actually, McDonald, I didn't realize this. He's qualified to learn first and second and short as well, so he can actually play everywhere but catcher.
kind of cool.
So
That's actually useful, right?
yeah, I think for a lot of these builds.
Yeah, because compared to Marcus Wilson, only can be qualified for first base, right? So.
But yeah, okay. So brief takeaway here: go buy Marcus Wilson. Although I don't recommend you pay 200 points for him. I think you'll do better. But go buy a Marcus Wilson.
That's a very good card.
Let's see. All right, in DH, well, you'll have seen a lot of these options before. So kind of as before, we tried to, for Warbot, we just tried to pick a few of the ones that, didn't quite end up at the top elsewhere. So Freeman and Judge. And then Kirk actually ends up just kind of as the third best DH in the Warbot model, even at 74 overall.
That card is just nuts.
Yeah, watching that guy play just makes me happy. He looks like me, but like -5 inches, and it's great. Makes me feel like I could play baseball again, and he is so fun to watch, dude. I love it. I love it. I love it.
The only problem is that he also looks like me when playing catcher.
Yeah.
But I guess you can't have everything for 74 points of overall, right?
You really can't. I mean, look how absurd that bat is, right?
In fact, I mean, I wonder actually at these ratings if that bat. So ignore that WAR because I'm pretty sure that WAR is involved. Has some catcher in there
from his -20 framing runs. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's almost just a play. It's not so far from a playable bat in silver if you don't have the big tournament cards.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Right, and probably going to get better as the re-rates sort of take this season more and more into account.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think I really like that card. Let's see. In the observed data, again, it's always a little tricky to sort of figure out, who's at DH. But you sort of end up with the big bats, as you might imagine. The only one I really don't like here, I don't like the idea of playing Trout.
No,
really, or Goldschmidt, right? I mean, both of them are just too good defensively at their position.
Yep.
Maybe Trout. So I guess that's a good question, right? There would be a point where Trout's bat is so good that you'd rather DH him and play him every day than play him in center, 5 or 6 days out of 7.
Mm-hmm. Actually, really interesting to note, Alejandro Kirk has caught more pitches than he did last year. He is actually 96th percentile in catcher framing, like in the positive right now. He's +4 runs.
If his defense gets updated in the game, he's going to...
That's terrifying, right?
Our first 120 overall.
Wow. Could you imagine that card with like 80 catcher ability?
Yeah.
Shout out to DJ Presentable calling that out in the chat. I couldn't believe it. I had to go look it up. That's awesome. Yep.
Yeah, good call. I just assumed that wasn't true.
I did as well, but I'm like, I have to look for myself, right? And he wasn't that bad either historically. Only -1 run, right? Is not terrible either. So it's probably just he looks funny out there more than he actually is bad, right? Yeah. Straight to 100, just like Astio's avoid K. Nice.
Nice. So, let's see. All right, couple other options, for some platoon splits here, right? Let's see. Hold on. So again, it's just a couple guys we want to highlight here. Devers, as you mentioned before, that's just a really, really good bat against righties.
Yep.
You could almost just play him and Bogarts, but Pete Alonso probably is even better versus lefties.
Hmm. Yeah.
And again, that war I think is because people are sort of playing in both ways, maybe in this data set.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably
So
somebody's budget for a spaceman.
I mean, it's not a horrible budget for a spaceman. It's just I really think he wants to be platooned, right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Absolutely.
Um, let's see. Again, it was sort of tough to figure out, but Goldschmidt was on all the winning teams. But I think this is again where we kind of just wanted to highlight a few bats that maybe are so good they shouldn't be ignored, right? Um,
Yeah.
and to me, just this Kirk bat right now is just the most efficient in the game, essentially, right?
Did I put Judge down? I don't remember putting Judge down. Maybe I clicked on the wrong card. I think I clicked on the wrong card.
Okay.
It's probably my error, not yours. I don't think I meant to put Judge, but sure, he's not terrible
I mean, the
either.
bat's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're right that just Goldschmidt and Jordan are so good. What you're really saying is find a way to get them both in your lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it was supposed to be Goldschmidt, Alvarez, and Freeman was mine, and I was just saying like get one of them in the lineup, right? Um, or get all of them in the lineup if you can, right? Play Jordan and
Play
left, one
Jordan
at
left.
DH, one
Yeah,
at first. Yeah, that's kind of was my takeaway for this.
that makes
Yeah,
sense.
Kirk's
Yeah, I
crazy
mean,
for sure. Kirk is crazy, dude.
yeah,
Oh,
throw Friedman in
I
there.
love Contreras too. That's a great call out.
Yeah, that again. I mean, if
Yeah.
not for Kirk, I would have said that Contreras has this like incredible bat for a catcher that can't catch, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, and also this Matt Carpenter card is a pretty interesting bat for where he's at, and a lefty, right? It's
Yeah, he's
basically
all
just
power, all
power and
eye.
eye. Yeah.
Yep. You can throw him at third base if you need to in emergency. Plays first base fine. Sure, that card looks awesome as a fill-in piece.
Yeah, I really like that one. But the Kirk, the other thing that's amazing to me about Kirk's bat here, this is almost the only live card I can think of, and maybe someone in chat can jump in and correct me here, but almost the only one I can think of that's good both with I and avoid K, right? Usually you either see,
Mm-hmm.
the like, low I, high avoid K, just like, like a Vlad Guerrero type, or the really patient hitters that'll strike out a lot but walk a ton, right?
Yeah, there's
Um,
definitely not a bunch in the live set, especially.
Yep. I think the closest is Luis Arias, his like 90 avoid K, 60 IVR.
maybe, yeah. And he's the kind of guy I
And
would have thought would be sort of a low I, low avoid K. I mean, high avoid K. Just because he's so good at getting the ball in play.
yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
Santana.
another
Yeah,
kind of cheap option that's like that is Carlos Santana. He's
Yes,
always kind of a
yeah.
fun
That
play
that,
every
that
year.
that's a really good one. There
he
there are a
was
few
very
of
close to
these.
making my first base list was Carlos Santana because he's a real weird bat, but he's gonna get on base a ton. So
The other guy that I really wanted to mention here that comes up on a lot of these screens is Geraldo Perdomo.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just you know, still iron barely, right? 59 overall, good third base defense, good shortstop defense. You know,
Yep.
untrained at second, uh, and then again, just like a huge eye for what he's got, right? Can
Yep.
bunt and
Absolutely.
can bunt for hit even a little bit. Um,
A predominant player that's always been on the lower end, but always a good card and out of the park. Yeah, Josh Bell's a really good one. So's Rendon. I think we mentioned both those earlier.
I think we mentioned
Yeah, I
Um,
think
Rendon.
Perdomo just went to iron this time, right? He was a bronze,
Yeah,
so
yes,
that's
he just
that's
went
very
down one.
interesting. Yeah, that's
That
interesting to
that
have him there.
Bregman card was a really good platoon bat at third until the last update.
Oh, did he get worse? Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Until then, I actually, instead of playing any of like the perfect third baseman, I was finding just platooning Bregman and Devers was working better.
Yeah,
Cost two spots,
I can
but
see that. I mean, that's still a really good bat on a 76 on Bregman.
it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so All right. Well, should we talk some
Get to the
pitchers?
pitchers.
Let's do some
Yeah.
Pitching time.
pitchers.
All right.
All right. So now that we figured out, kind of what the hitting is going to look like, um, let's see. So I guess as before, we'll sort of start with the model. As you might imagine, the model, is kind of just saying, hold on, that is not Evan Phillips. We fixed this before. It's definitely a typo in there.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a typo. He's actually number 1.
The 19 stamp starting pitcher legend.
They never see it coming.
No, I'm just puzzled because we actually went through and noticed this and fixed it before.
Yeah, we did. I think we talked about Strider pre-stream, and the model thinks he's a reliever,
Yes.
if I recall.
So
Prefers him as a
model
reliever.
thinks of
obviously.
Strider as a reliever here, yeah. So the model still really wants about 50 stamina here to be a starter, and Strider's below that, right? And I think Ben, you're gonna sort of say that like anything that'll let you start is good, right?
Hard disagree.
So,
Yeah.
and I think that's a little bit true of the observed data too, right? So let me kind of see what we've got in the observed data. So Strider does end up limited number of innings, right? But
Look at him
Strider
up
ends
there.
up third in the observed data.
Yeah,
Um,
and look at that actual ERA too.
yeah, I think
Number
I'm less
2, only
convinced.
to Kershaw.
Well, both of
Yeah,
them,
and it ends up.
the ERA is way under the FIP, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And both of it ends up with the whole thing with the this is combined relief and starter.
Very true.
So if a guy's getting used more as a reliever, his
Be better.
his
Yeah.
stats are gonna be better. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So
That makes sense. Yeah. Let's see. I
Also,
think.
just realized I did
Someone's
not
asking
change.
about Max Fried. Yeah, I think I think the idea is just that that control is worth a lot, right? That seems to be what the model's saying.
especially in a format with like Trout and Soto, some of these other really high I guys. I think the thing about Fried is he's so splitty, but most people are probably going to want to run lefty bats in this format, and that's where Fried excels, right? So
It's funny though because if you actually look at the data, right, it said it's still 34% lefties, 57 righties, and 9% switch. So
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
but he does do fine in the data too. So
Yep.
Actually, I realized one thing I didn't do was change the FIP constant for this. So the FIP's actually about 0.25 too high if you're normalizing it to the ERA.
okay.
Okay.
So actually, Michael King's ERA and FIP is about pretty close. Like DeGrom's is
Yeah.
actually about like 4.32 if we normalize it.
And
So-
King's another
Yeah.
guy that I would have thought the stamina is kind of not enough to give you as many innings as you want, but certainly in terms of anything like rate stats, King and Strider are doing great,
Yep.
right? I liked King a lot more when he had the same ratings but was only costing you 74.
Yeah. Or Eli Morgan and everything, and then he got worse and went up 18 points of overall. Yep.
Yeah, interesting to see Kershaw up there. I guess just because it's stuff and control, right?
Yep.
The movement just isn't playing a lot right now.
I mean, if you look at the observed, Kershaw just looks like a little Scherzer, right? And that's basically what he's doing.
Yeah, that looks about right. Let's see. Well, that's what he's doing, except like a run lower ERA somehow in the limited sample.
Limited sample. Very limited sample, right? So.
I also just want to point out, I do think the stamina matters a lot more for kind of roster building. So to me, there's a huge difference between what you get out of DeGrom and, say, Wheeler. Because DeGrom's
Oh,
probably going to give you a full extra like inning per start.
see, I would not let that happen personally. Um, because the third time through the order penalty is so strong that yeah, you can't just pull your guys after 18 batters every time, but like I don't want them out there. Like I want them out there just enough so that I can use my bullpen and not be tired all the time, but I really don't want my starters out there that long for the third time through the order, or especially not the fourth time, right? So
Yeah, I guess the way I see it is because you have a lot of low stamina guys, and I still only want to run 7 arms. Uh, I need at least some starters to figure out how to go deep.
I mean, I've been running, 7 arms in the bullpen, and I 90 pitch count to like 70 pitch count my starters. Never had a problem. Never ever. I think it's fine as long as you have good bullpen fatigue management set up between your bench when fatigue and your bullpen pitch counts. You'll be good to go.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's definitely not a plug and play, but you'd have to spend a little bit of time with the sliders and
Absolutely.
situations with the scores. When you're
Yep.
in a route, either way, you want to bump up the stamina probably to let those guys go longer, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a little bit of active, and probably every night get burned by it. But I'd rather lose a game once every now and then to that than literally let
Yeah,
my guys take a penalty every time they go through the order in extra time.
yeah,
Right?
and yeah, it
DeGrom's
combines
also
with the
pretty
nature of
splitty,
yeah,
so
He is. I mean, obviously, you'd rather have more stamina than less, right? But like, because I think you'll just pitch better too, even on the lower pitch count because of it. So.
especially for cap building. Just some of those low stamina guys are just so much better in their other ratings, and they're getting you know a comparative
Well,
boost because they got the same overall. But
exactly. I mean,
yeah,
if you look at a guy like Spencer Strider, right, especially in a cap tournament, he's only like 36 points. Because he doesn't have 45 stamina is where they drew the line. It seems right. You're literally losing like 20 points of cap space to put him on your team, right? Like it's a must play card. And I think he's just so overstated that I want him in my rotation, right? On
see,
most of the
I
things.
really disagree for caps because the problem is I'm always going to be short on bullpen arms, or at least on quality bullpen arms. So I'd much
Right, but I mean, if you could
rather.
save 20 points on a starter, you could even just put in better bullpen arms, right? And he's going to be
yeah,
one
I
of the
think
best
is that
starters
yeah.
in the format, I think, still.
For
So,
caps, that is definitely the other side of that coin. Then is like even Degrom with the third time through the order of magnitude better than your 40 overall, who's your long reliever.
Yeah.
that is very true in caps, yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Very,
so I think
very
for
true.
caps, even as cheap as Strider is, what I'd much rather do with that stamina is make him a bullpen stopper and, throw his arm off as much as I can, out of the pen, right?
I don't know. I look at Strider versus a lot of these live cards, and personally, I'd probably play him like over most of them to the point I would just play him in my rotation anyway. So
It's just an awesome card right now.
it's so good, right? It's just so good. I
It's
love it. I hope they don't revisit the 45 number and next update Strider goes up like 30 points.
I might decide to own 10 copies of him just in case, though.
Yeah, I might as well. That's not a bad idea, I don't think.
Um,
The C. Whitman basically said what you just told me, DB. It was very good.
yeah, I think, yeah, I just think he's better as, kind of a bullpen ace. But the other funny thing is that the model before the re-rate, a lot of people were playing Strider because he had a similar shape, but was it 8 to 10 points, something like that, lower in control.
Uh,
And the model really didn't like him then, and now likes him a lot.
Seems to be 40, like 5 control is a pretty important number. And he doesn't have it VL, but he has it VR. Um,
Yeah.
from just anecdotally what I've seen so far this year. So it probably helps him a lot versus righties.
Yeah, I think he got a lot better in this update, even though the overall only changed a few points.
Yep.
Um, let's see. Oh yeah, and then just a couple guys to consider where you know maybe they didn't quite kind of make this list, but could have made this list. If you get some platoon splits, and Sale in particular, I think if you can figure out a way to get him in against all lefties, then suddenly that becomes a really good option.
Probably a decent bullpen option, right?
Yeah, I think so. Um,
Yeah.
it feels weird to run a starter out of the pen as a specialist, but
Oh, I do it all the time. He just doesn't get tired as fast. It's good, right?
that's fair. That's fair. Um,
Mm-hmm.
let's see. What do we got here? All right. Let's see. So a few winners. We can, again, maybe this won't be too surprising that kind of in the limited data. Hey, it's the really high rated cards, but and Strider. So
And
Strider also
Strider.
ends up on kind of all these winning teams. You can see actually maybe that's the biggest differentiator, right?
It
That
looks like it. Yep.
that a large fraction of the teams running Strider went pretty deep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a few others that we can highlight that maybe get interesting. That maybe get interesting kind of later on, right? So let's see. So I'll throw a few of these options that we each kind of wanted to mention. So I see you again just really want to make this pitch for Strider as just being so efficient for his overall, right?
Yep. Absolutely. And there may be a pattern with my pitchers.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that your pitchers are almost all guys that Warbot just says need to be out of the pen, and you're happy to take
Yep.
4 innings out of them and make them 4 excellent innings.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Um,
Absolutely. Like, I mean, there's so many of these guys, especially like somebody like Ronaldo Lopez, which is just he's a relief pitcher, I think. He's crazy. Um, a lot of these guys are just so efficient because of the middling stamina. Like if you're playing bronze, you need to be playing Christian Javier somewhere. Nick Nelson is another crazy one, I think, in my opinion, that's super overstated. And something where points don't matter really. Tanner Houck is going to be awesome as like a. He's pretty splitty, but in
he's
like a
super
super
splitty.
righty
I
heavy
like him
format.
as a righty specialist more.
Yeah, I could agree with that. But like if the format's super righty heavy and you got a good read on it, you could throw him out of the rotation, no problem. I think, right? So.
And my Tanner Tully recommendation I put in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't
Yep.
follow along with the rest of them, but
I like.
I think he's my new favorite 40.
Yep. 40s with high control are awesome, right? So
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Do you remember? Was it Wolf from last year that had like 80 control?
Yeah, there were a pair of those guys who had like super high as Wolf and someone else I'm forgetting right now, but yeah.
Yeah, Bob Botts. Yep, that's the other one.
Yeah, Babatz was great. He was 41, but totally worth it. Always worth
Yep. That
Um,
42 you have looks excellent up there
yeah,
for
so
Warbot.
Wells, same idea, but I think if you're willing to pay up just a couple points, uh,
Oh yeah,
you
for
just get
that
you
looks
just get a
great.
lot more for those 2 points than most of the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I've got Degrom in there. I think that stamina compared with all of the other good options just makes him so much more valuable because you're just
Sure.
getting more innings out of the card you're paying 100 points for.
Totally agree with that. That card's awesome. Compared to
Um,
every other, that's one of the cards we were talking about earlier, like cards that are over 100, right? That card is very much over 100. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
yeah, I think so.
uh,
And Sale also, if you can get the matchups right,
hmm
you know,
very much like Hauk. Yeah.
um, I see. Yeah, we both. Yeah, I guess we had one in common this time. This
I
Aaron
love
Ashby is
the
also
court.
kind of a fun shape. I thought.
Yeah, he's a really good 58. He's top down. He shows up a little bit on some of my bronze stuff, just because I think that profile is super strong right now. In lower formats. I also like the Corey Kluber has a really nice look to it on your list. That card looks very good.
yeah, I think it's again in good shape and sort of has more stamina than kind of some of the similarly statted cards.
Yep.
One that's really not bad at all.
Yeah, I would love to see that down to 69. I would play
Yeah,
that all the time.
that is suddenly a bronze option for sure.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and I think and I think it is worth looking at more of these because unlike the bats, I think the truth is for most of the bats, they're really not going to be in the metas, except for a handful of the low irons. But a lot of these arms are going to be in different metas, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe not DeGrom so much, but I think Strider plays a lot of formats. I think Wells, Tully definitely should. You said Kluber would if he came down a couple points, right?
Yeah, I think Nick Nelson's up there as well. Really good. Javier should be up there too. That card will strike out endgame costing.
Nelson, I guess we've talked about this a little bit before, right? But that movement, a bit of a mirage.
Yeah,
Not as good of a movement as it looks.
I think it helps him actually strike out guys, but it does not help him. I mean, he's going to walk a lot of guys, so the movement doesn't matter there. Correct. Yes.
So maybe the most relevant cards for most of the relievers. So we've already talked about Strider. Of course, really is a reliever. But but let's talk about a few relievers. Okay, so in the model, you got a lot of good options here, right? Strider, of course, is up there, right? Clase is just excellent.
Yes.
Clay Holmes, he now costs you a lot more than he did before, and he's still excellent.
Why not 100 Clay Holmes? Question mark.
He is 100. He's just 100 that only costs you 87 points.
I guess.
I mean, could you imagine if they actually bump his rating up to 100?
I mean, it should be. He's crazy. So good.
Yeah, that card, I think it was a must play in every cap format you could get it in before, but I think that may still be true. I'm actually playing Clay Holmes in my Diamond League.
Sure.
There you go.
Yep. I'm not playing Holmes, but I'm playing Clase, Minter, and Rogers right now, and they're all doing very well.
Yeah, Clase and Minter are doing fine for me in PEL.
I'm playing Clase. I can check how Clay Holmes is actually doing for me, but certainly Warbot likes him better than Minter or Rogers. They're both excellent, but let me see how my Clay Holmes is. Okay, yeah. So my Clay Holmes is doing just fine. 39 innings, 208 ERA. A little bit higher FIP, but.
In addition to Clay Holmes, one more stamina, please. I need it. I need that 25 number, please.
You want to start Clay Holmes? I mean, he's got 4 pitches, right?
He does. Could you imagine if you could start that card like in a perfect draft or something? I would do it all the time.
I would, yeah, 25. I mean, he's only going to give you like 4 innings, but they're just
such a good 4 innings though for the price. Oh.
See, here's the thing though, right? Is I think for a card that's that good, instead of 4 innings kind of at the start of the game at medium leverage every 5th day, I'd much rather throw him 4 high leverage innings every 5 days if I could do it.
Sure. I'm not going to go into it. I don't think. I have a very, very different opinion on high leverage versus low leverage innings that a lot of people don't agree with me on. Where to me, an inning is an inning and a run is a run. So, we don't have to go into that if you don't want to. But,
no, you're welcome. You're welcome to. I mean, look, this is why I'm like -10 versus Pythagorean or something this season, right?
No, I mean it would technically be the opposite, right? But
yeah.
I just think I know like win probability and all that, but like if I score 10 runs in the first inning and I score 10 runs in the ninth inning, there is no difference on my win percent for the game, right? Um,
Yeah.
so I guess it's really, do you think you'll get the same amount of innings as in the rotation as he will in the pen, right? I don't think so. I think he gets more out of the rotation, so I'd rather
I
play him
think he'll
there.
get more innings in the rotation, probably. Yeah.
So
But
that's really my logic when it comes to these playing these low stamina guys out of the rotation. And you could say maybe I'd get more out, but like the low stamina guys are so much better rated that if I could just play more of them on my team, it's probably worth it.
I think the problem I have is that it's really tough to get the AI manager to use multi-inning relievers properly, and you've got to do that if you're running, starters that only go 4 innings.
Yep. No, you're totally right. That is one of the issues, right? I think I have it down decently with the everyone middle relief thing and maybe a stopper or two, but setting different leverages, secondary roles for everyone, things like that. Quick hooks on all my relievers, and it seems to work pretty
But
well.
if you run quick hooks, so do you run through 5 or 6 arms every
Every
game,
game,
basically?
every game, but they recover pretty fast. And I don't throw them back to back games. I have it set up, and I don't really have problems.
I see. Let's see. Oh yeah, here's some observed data, by the way. Again, it's going to kind of look similar.
Yep.
No Classe
Michael.
actually, which is weird.
Yeah, that is weird. But that can't be right because he looked really good in the observed. Or is that the model? That's the model's projection,
That's
right?
the
Yeah. That's
observed.
the,
The projection has him at the top.
yeah, yeah.
Why is he
Yeah, that's
not?
weird. Where is he?
He just didn't have enough innings.
Oh, is that it? He just
And then
okay.
yeah, but
I
then
think his,
Williams and Helsley are there with no observed data.
wait a second now.
Yeah, that can't be right, right?
No, Clase is there. Yeah, that's weird. Oh, he's just out. Yeah, he's
He's just 11th or something.
11th. Yeah, he's 11th.
Okay.
Wow.
Oh,
Well,
wow. Wild.
I think he'll be better with a bigger sample, but
Yeah, probably. Look at Michael King up there. He's gonna get a stuff bump. Not stuff bump, a K
so
percent bump.
Vicarious, I assume what he's doing is essentially just setting a really high bench threshold. Although if you're throwing 5 guys each game, some of them have to throw back to back, right?
Yeah, it's really well if you throw a starter, and most of the time it's like starter and 4 guys is what it comes out to be. And so then you can kind of throw back to back like 5 and 4 alternating if you're not too bad. I have it so sometimes they'll throw twice in a row if they throw very few pitches, right? But yeah, you just run a very high bench win fatigue for relief pitchers.
Feel like I would just be terrified of like playing a 15 inning game and then having Strider start the next day or something.
Yeah, it happens. It really like I check my stats very frequently to make sure my batters aren't throwing. You know what I mean? Which would be my team gets burned. Right? And it really hasn't happened. So
So I think my problem isn't just are my batters throwing, but it's are my pitchers throwing when they're on, like 10% or something.
yeah, that's a bad problem too. But I check pretty frequently. I am very much a guy who logs in too much.
I see. So the long, I mean, Vicarious, so I think the long games are a problem, but the nice thing is, unless they happen kind of in the last game of a series, then they hurt both you and your opponent, right?
Yep.
And so if I'm going to be running pitchers that have more stamina and I'm going to be running guys that are going to get me 6 or 7 innings, my thinking is I actually want those 15-inning games. Because as much as it's bad for both of us, it's probably worse for my opponent than it is for me.
Right. It's going to be worse for me most of the time. Yeah.
Now, of course, if it's game 7, and now we get to play somebody fresh, next time that's completely different, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is kind of a more general problem when you put tournament builds together, and I think this is one of the places. Actually, I'm curious where you two come down on this. So I've seen the argument that look, if you want to win, say, a weekly tournament, you have to win 7 series, right? If you ever get a long series, you're kind of going to be stuck with rest going forward anyway. So you might as well just optimize for winning quick series because you have to run good in order to win the tournament. Um, and the philosophy I've taken is much more be willing to sacrifice a bit, build deeper teams, put a little bit more effort into bench guys, who are going to play 4 or 5 games a week, maybe even run an extra arm, but try to make it so that I can win a 7 game series and still be competitive the next time. Because you need, because the other way to look at it is if you're going to win 7 series in a row, a couple of them are going to be long series and you're still going to have to win the next one, right? But where do you come down on this?
I like kind of a middle ground, I think, because a lot of the times, a lot like you most likely you're going to hit a 7 game series at some point, right?
Yeah.
It's just kind of how it goes in a big tournament. And if you're only running like let's say 11 pitchers and you're all platoons, you're probably going to get burned at some point. So I think just kind of playing it down the middle and being safe. I mean, you could do what you're doing and say like, if I run into a bunch of these, I'll be fine. And I think that's probably better than running short, in my opinion. So I'd probably lean more towards playing it safe. But also something to note about this whole reliever versus starter with the low stamina guys as well to note. Starting when you play a pitcher out of the rotation or as a follower, their stamina is very different than out of the bullpen, right? Like I'm not going to be able to get a 4 inning outing out of Spencer Strider in the bullpen. You know what I mean? That I
Right.
am in the rotation, right? So I think that's something kind of to take into consideration as well.
But what you can do is you can get a 2 inning stint out of him twice every 5 games.
Yeah, no, exactly, right. So it's probably a little bit less in the bullpen. You do obviously get a stuff boost or strikeout boost rather, which is nice for players like Strider. Um, so yeah,
Let's see. 54.6. So that 54.6 is if it's random, I guess? Like if
yeah.
the two teams are equally matched.
I mean, you would hope you're not equally matched and you're better, right? So it's probably a bit lower, but yeah.
But I
What we
think
got
but
for
I think
the
actually what I've found is that if you do it right, it works a lot better than that. Like one of the biggest differentiators between the teams that seem to do well consistently and the ones that don't are if you just sort of take a snapshot late in a series and just look at kind of how fatigued everybody is. The teams that are successful more often just seem in that snapshot to have done a better job managing it, right? So there's a
Yeah,
lot of fatigue management that goes into this. It's not just player selection and sliders.
yeah. Though I will say too, you gotta be careful for you know confirmation bias with um, the shot of the picture of the plane with the bullet holes getting shot down or whatever. Like you gotta sometimes it's people make it to the end because they didn't get put into several extra inning games in a row, etc.
Mhm.
Sometimes there are teams that have good fatigue management that just run into bad situations, and sometimes teams that don't have good fatigue management just kind of skate on by because they got lucky and didn't get put in a bad situation like that. So, yeah, no, in general, you're absolutely right, but there there are plenty of outliers to keep an eye on too.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the better way to say it is the teams with really bad fatigue management kind of never can win 7 series in a row. You know,
Yes. Yeah.
like,
Theoretically,
you can win 3 or 4 series in a row if you only have one shortstop on your roster because you get lucky and get some short series, but
Yeah.
you can't win 7.
Yeah, it's much easier to win a quick than it is to win like a daily, right? Obviously, with bad fatigue management, like anybody can win a quick just with a random team, just over a big enough sample, right?
Yeah.
Something like a daily is much harder because if you don't have proper depth, I mean, it still happens, but obviously, the bigger the sample, the harder it's going to be to do.
And also, actually, the best of 5 in many ways is harder just because you tend to have fewer off days.
Yes, that is also true.
see. So anyway, right. Oh yeah, and I guess we'll mention just a couple relievers that kind of are splitty. If you're gonna think about kind of looking at a specialist out of the pen here, that Tim Hill card is just incredible.
And Hill is so fun.
Um,
Uh,
every time
love.
him, Mantiply, we've looked at the stats on them, and the stats are always awful because you can't convince the AI manager to figure out how to use them,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, unfortunately, you very rarely go up against 9 left-handed hitters in a row.
So I'll tell you actually the place that I have used Tim Hill occasionally. See, I probably shouldn't admit this on stream because now it's going to stop working. But occasionally, if you're in a situation where the other person has set opener lineups and you kind of know what it's going to look like,
Uh-huh.
Tim Hill is the best same-sided opener in the game.
Yeah, except for maybe Taylor Rogers, right? Taylor Rogers is up there, but
You better be right though, because if you just get him in against those righties at the top of the order, you're down 3-0 or whatever.
yeah, I mean, or even if it's the other way around, Clay Holmes opening for a lefty, or the vice versa if you're same siding, right? So good.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we mentioned Dylan Tate here. Although the really funny thing is, like, just compare Dylan Tate head to head against Clay Holmes here.
It's not close.
They're both
It's really not.
they're
right?
both 87 overall. They both have 24 stamina. Why
Yeah,
are these two cards the same overall?
what is it? A hold runner gap? Hold on, let me check.
So Dylan Tate has 5 more points of movement VR in return for 20 points of stuff, 25 points of stuff VL, another 7 points of movement, and 2 points of control.
Holmes actually has more hold runners as well. They are both XGB. What is it? They're both
Yeah.
XGB, same velocity. I don't understand. Also, Holmes is another pitch, which is also beneficial.
So Mr.
Yeah,
Black,
that's very
you
strange.
may have it. It's basically, but one's a Yankee and one's an Oriole.
Yeah, Clay Holmes is a Yankee, so Take 'em down.
So clearly the answer is that when you're a small market team like the Yankees, everybody gets underrated. Or something like that.
Oh, Dylan Tate has some batting ratings. I wonder if that's it.
Hold on.
He's actually got power. He's got 24 power. It's got to
There's
be
no
the
way
difference.
that
Right?
the batting ratings are somehow
Actually, you know what it is?
involved
You know what
here,
it is?
right?
It's Dylan Tate is 35 points better fielder.
You really think that's the difference?
It has to be, right? There's nothing else that makes sense. It has to be that.
Just because everything else is the same on both cards, huh?
I don't think I can explain it otherwise, right? Unless it thinks the 5 points of movement VR is that important, which it shouldn't.
No,
But-
because even like if you just look at the overall movement, right?
Yeah. No, totally.
You're getting overall 105 for home, because it's sort of telling you how important they are in the overall, right? And they're both 105 overall movement.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Something.
I think we should not try and make sense of the overall system. It's not the best.
No, but it does say for the next live update, you either want to buy a lot of Clay Holmes or sell a lot of Dylan Tate.
Or you might want to sell a lot of Clay Holmes. Maybe he's just busted and won't go up anymore.
All right, so I guess finally let's just mention a few relievers that we think are worth looking at, and this is maybe actually the most relevant part of this because some of these really do come up in Cap or the Bronze Live or something like that, right?
Mhm.
So I'll throw out. Hold on, that's the wrong one. There we go. So here you go. So here you want to talk about a few of these guys that you had
I
pulled here.
really just want to talk. We've talked a lot about like Minter, Rogers, Williams shows up a lot in data. I really want to talk about the top three because
Okay.
John Schreiber is maybe the best iron I have ever seen in my life. I don't understand how that is a 52. It is the best looking 52 I have ever seen. Um, some other crazy things are like Tanner Scott's a 64 with 150 stuff VL. And Eric Swanson is just one of the probably highest rated high bronzes. Like if you want to play a bronze reliever, it's probably Eric Swanson right now. Fantastic card.
Yeah. So Schreiber is really splitty, right? And I think several
Yes.
of these are. Tanner Scott's really splitty again with this huge stuff. So
Hmm.
it does seem like the way the overall is set up here, that there's definitely kind of a real attempt to kind of punish some of these splitty, uh, to punish some of these really splitty relievers, right?
Yeah, but like a 55, 60, 58 VL isn't even bad for a 52, right? Like it's just odd. Schreiber's odd, right? Tanner Scott I can understand, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Schreiber's just nuts.
Yeah, that card is insane. I would not be surprised to see it gain like 20 points of overall magically next
Well,
update.
it's got 32 stamina. So would you start him in iron?
I'm starting him in bronze. I have not pulled data on it. So if you didn't know, I'm doing a 1v1 bronze model off with Snailman this week. And my model is telling me to start Schreiber, so I'm starting Schreiber. And we'll see how it goes. I'm not winning a lot, but he's not winning a lot either. Mainly because our pitching is bad. I think hitting is really easy to predict. I don't think pitching is. Pitching is very complicated, it turns out. So
I see. It's funny. I end up having the opposite problem in the modeling because the pitching kind of you can just get the three true outcomes right, whereas the hitting you have to deal with defense, and I don't understand defense.
see, that's what I thought too, Charles. But I cracked defense mostly this year, and the three true outcomes for pitching is not working right. It just doesn't work right for me. I think there's
It's
got to be stuff I'm missing.
what you're
Like I
missing is that
know.
you're assuming that players with higher movement are going to be better at movement.
Uh, no, that's true this year. They changed that. They changed that.
They did some really screwy stuff with movement. That was the thing that was
I,
toughest to.
right. Well, I knew that's how it worked last year, but I'm pretty
Yeah.
positive they changed that for this year.
So
Maybe they didn't. We should talk about it off stream because we could talk about it forever.
yeah, I think that's
But
probably a good point to.
yeah, there's also well, there's something else I got to talk to you about too. So we have much to talk about. If you think you can do pitching modeling, and I can trade you fielding modeling stuff, and we'll be okay.
But I think otherwise, yeah. I mean, a few others to point out here. First off, I think Clay Holmes and also Class A, but especially Clay Holmes, just is such an efficient card.
Yes,
Even though you're now
absolutely.
paying, an extra 15 points, I think you want to play him in almost every format you can.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
Crazy.
I also really like
Crazy card.
Strider out of the pen.
Yep. I mean, if he's not in the rotation, he's in your pen, right? He has to be one of the two.
You know,
Unbelievable card.
I think Schreiber, Fire Rise. I mean, it's interesting that this is the one where we both end up with a pretty similar list.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I can't not talk about the top three because I'm such a big bronze nerd this year. Um,
Well,
uh,
the
but a lot
live
of the others, I mean,
Swanson,
are
the live Swanson ends up my top bronze reliever. The only
he is
reason
my
he's not
top.
in this list is just I think he's a little bit less efficient than some of these iron ones, right? For caps.
Absolutely, yeah. But there, every now and then, you just have some points left over, and you throw a bronze guy in there, right? Um, and I think I mean Swanson is ridiculous. He's my number one iron or bronze guy as well. Yeah. He's
Yeah,
so good.
I really like Swanson. I think for caps, most of the time I would prefer to get both Schreiber and Holderman than to have Swanson.
Schreiber, where's Holderman? Oh, Holderman looks very good. Yes, I like all that card.
Because you can kind of get them both for the same price, right? It's one more
You
point.
can, yeah. That sounds like a good deal, doesn't it?
Um,
I'm sold.
but it
Yep.
depends on the format, right? Because if it's not such a tight cap,
Mhm.
if it's like an 1875 cap or something, and you've already got a couple high leverage arms, maybe you'd rather one more good arm than two slightly worse arms.
Yep. Yep.
Fair point.
So, all right. Well, I guess we made it through kind of most of the live cards. I guess we thought this would be a quicker one this week because there aren't as many live cards to go through, but never seems to work out that way.
No, no,
We
it
got
doesn't.
too much to say. What a shame.
Any other
We talk.
things you wanted to say? Any other questions from chat? Anything like that?
Yeah, final call on questions chat. I just want to say quick, thank you for having me. I know Charles, you and I have talked about like doing a stream together forever, so I'm so glad it finally happened. Right?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's great. I mean, it's and DB, thank you for. I guess you're doing a lot of the spreadsheet work for this too. Thank you for that. It's been fantastic. I've loved watching these streams so far.
He's our DB guy.
He's your
Yeah.
database guy. Nice. Can I hire him to fix all the bugs in my spreadsheet because it's a nightmare right now? I'll pay you.
Yeah, I work for Perfect Packs.
You work for Perfect Packs? I could make
Yeah,
that
I've got
happen,
a
I think.
I got a high rate.
Pull a few strings. Yep.
See what gets it. DB.
DB, yep.
It was destiny. It's like John Crapper inventing the toilet or whatever. Or Thomas Crapper.
Awesome. I didn't know that.
I don't know if it's true, but I should
That's
just
funny.
look at Wikipedia.
No,
It was,
reminds
Thomas
me of,
Crapper. He was
of
a
actually the card that if I ever get a chance to like add a card to the game, the one I most wanted this year is a Tony Suck,
Tony Suck.
who
Tony
may
Suck.
well have been the worst player in the history of Major League Baseball.
He was pretty bad. I remember looking it up with you. This is really bad.
But the thing that makes him a really fun card, right?
Besides his name.
He somehow was the worst catcher, shortstop, and center fielder in the history of Major League Baseball.
Yes.
So he's basically like the 40 overall. He's like the Bob Uecker version of like Dexter.
Yep. That's great.
Early Euchre. Love it. Oh my god.
So yeah, if anyone wins something this year where they get to request a card,
Do
Suck it up.
Yep.
Start the hashtag.
yeah.
Well, yeah, no, this was a lot of fun. It was great talking to you, Kidneys. Great be here again, Charles. Looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, we'll see you all next week when hopefully we've got Mike successfully back off the boat.
Yeah, if the whales didn't get him.
True. Just gotta watch
It might
out.
be a yeah.
Alright.
Everybody, we'll see some of you again in 2 hours here. We're gonna look up what's going on with the Brooks tonight.
Oh yeah. I'm excited.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yep.
All right, see everyone next
Bye,
week.
guys.